See if this one works. Should be. See if it went live or not. Is it live? Sure looks like it is.
Hey,
Yep, we are live. So, welcome in everyone to the Bat Flip podcast, Game 3 ALDS watch along. Have Matt and David here doing a little watch along of the Rangers and Orioles broadcast. Unfortunately, you will need your own stream. We can't have that on the screen due to copyright, but come hang out with us and we'll react to whatever's happening and talk about the other matchups. But so far, David, how's your week been and what's going on?
seeing as how I haven't had any stressful baseball games to watch, I'm perfectly happy.
Neither
Um,
have I.
yeah, no, none stressful for you.
Yeah.
Um, but my birthday's tomorrow. That's cool. Other
Happy
than that,
birthday.
we're we're rolling. So, how are you guys doing? Because it hasn't been so good on the Braves and Dodgers front thus
Eh,
far.
I mean, it hadn't been a disaster, so for my team.
Listen, game one of the NLDS is tomorrow, so it's all that matters. No, game one tomorrow, and just got to win three straight of them. That's the way I look at
Yeah,
it. But
Yep. In
yeah, it's
Arizona too, right? Two in
yeah, I don't.
Arizona, one in LA.
Yeah, I don't know how the lower seed gets home field advantage, but you know it's pretty
it,
dumb if you ask me.
is tomorrow's game gonna be like 15-14 with Lance Lynn and Brandon Pfaadt pitching?
No, what's absolutely going to happen is they're both going to throw like shutouts.
Yeah,
Like
that would be the
after
baseball thing to happen,
yeah, after
right?
like Kershaw gives up 6 in the first and Miller gives up 3 in the first, it's like Lynn's gonna throw like 7 shutout innings or something tomorrow. Like that's absolutely what's gonna happen. But anyways, so we missed the top half of the first. Um, did Gunner get on? I think he got on right, and then
Yeah.
the rest of them got out.
Might have been Santander that got a hit, but one of them got a hit.
Yeah.
A
Gunner
left,
has the
somebody who was hitting
victory.
lefty got a hit.
Yeah, it
Double
was
check.
Santander. Gunner flew out. So Santander got on. They had a fly out, strikeout, strikeout. So now Dean Kramer is taking the mound, the bottom of the first. And
Has he
ball
been
right
throwing
away.
95 all year?
Think so.
Yeah, I think
Dean
so.
Kramer, man. The Orioles have run out some weird pitchers in this series. Dean Kramer and Bradish, just guys you wouldn't think are, the leaders of a rotation that won 104 games or 100 games, 101 games. Very, very odd the construction of this Orioles pitching staff, and it was kind of one of the things that we've mentioned all year that do the Orioles really have enough pitching to win the AL East, but also do the Orioles have enough pitching to go far in the playoffs? And so far, it hadn't been the case.
Yeah, they've um, they've kind of struggled against the Rangers offense so far.
I think people forget how good the Rangers offense has been all
Yeah,
year though,
Yeah,
because they had some injuries there in the middle part of the year where it really hurt them. But I mean, their offense has
Jung,
been
Seager.
incredible all year. Like Jung was out, Seegers was out. Well, that was early, but like
Yeah,
who else was it? Somebody else had been out. Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim
yeah.
had been
Jonah
out
Heim
for
was
like
out.
an extended period of time too. So, and then they've gotten the breakout from Evan Carter at the end of the season, and that's been a big deal for them. So
he's been so good
he has been
in the
really good.
playoffs.
So
I gotta pull up the numbers. Fangraphs has this thing that gave us a batting leaders for the LDS. Jordan's the leader, to shock no one.
Of course he is.
Um, where's Evan Carter?
yeah, Jordan hit another homer today, didn't he?
Yep.
he
Yeah.
Evan
Jordan
Carter
has a.
has. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say Jordan has a 463 WRC plus with a zero BABIP. because
All
he's
his
hit
hits are homers.
3 home runs and 8 plate appearances
They just
and a
flashed up
walk.
Corey Seager's. They just flashed up Corey Seager's line for the series. He has 7 walks
Yeah.
Yeah,
in
I
this
don't blame him.
series.
Just walk him. I mean,
It's not working. He scored a bunch of runs. I guess he's only scored 2 runs, but like, man, he's just so much traffic on base, and it's definitely well.
Oh, is that a Corey
oh,
nuke?
oh,
That's
that's a
a
nuke.
That
he
is a
hit that
nuke.
That's like
four
450.
thirty.
It's got to
445.
be 450, 445.
I'm
Good.
calling 430. That
Jeez.
was Corey Seager. Rangers up 1-0, trying to clinch. Yeah, they finally pitched to
Golly.
him, I guess.
So that's why
445.
that's why we
Damien.
walk him.
Damien called it. Or was it? Did it pop up already for you?
It
I have the uh, baseball savant page.
We're gonna be a little behind, I think, because it's a
yeah.
stream. But
Yeah.
there you go, Corey Seager.
Definitely not the start you wanted for the Orioles, but you can live with solo homers against this team. This team is so patient at the plate; they walk a lot, and you can't live with walks and then homers. So if you give
Yep.
up one solo homer here to the best player, probably the best player in the American League, not named Otani this year, that's not that big
Yeah.
of a deal. And I mean, honestly, there's an argument to be made that Seager is close to what Otani did this year when it comes to like at the plate and with Otani factoring in the injuries to Otani.
Yeah. Seager had like arguably a very equal season
Yeah,
to Otani. Um, I know Otani had like a 180 WRC plus. Corey Seager had a 169 WRC
yeah,
plus. 33 homers in 119 games. A very 20 like 18 Trout season for Corey Seager. Very
yeah,
very impactful. Huge part of this Rangers lineup. Just didn't get as many games on the field as you'd hope.
yeah. He had I was looking to see what his defensive stats looked like this year because I think his defensive numbers were pretty good too compared to
Yeah,
his. He was at least an adequate shortstop, which -2 outs above average at shortstop. It's not the best, but I
it's
mean,
acceptable.
it's acceptable for a guy who hits like he does. Like he's an acceptable
Mhm.
shortstop, and the other metrics, his UZR per 150 and DRS were really really good. So he had 5
Right.
DRS and 5.9 UZR per 150, which were I think career bests in both of them. Maybe not
Yeah.
in UZR per 150. His career best was in 2016, um, but yeah, impressive year defensively for Seager compared to what people kind of typically think of him, and obviously just incredible at the plate. So
Dulles has got some awesome cleats.
yeah,
Some
he's a good player.
39 homers this season for Adolis Garcia. Almost got to 40.
Oh.
So, in this series, we've seen the Rangers score a lot of runs
Yeah.
and Baltimore really not be able to get back as Adolis lines one to
Oh
center
my
for a base hit.
goodness,
He just keeps on going.
stuck his bat
You know,
out, poked that one.
that's what I was gonna say Adolis kind of proved it for me here. The Rangers have been really good with 2 strikes. They're shortening up, just making contact, getting the ball in play and seeing what happens. They're not swinging for the fences every single, strike, no matter what the count is. They're adjusting to the count. They're, performing with 2 strikes. And it's the thing that Cody Bellinger did this year that was noticeably different than what I've seen Cody Bellinger do in the past, where he had a really good season, 4 wins above replacement, 130 something WRC plus. He looked like Cody Bellinger of old. It's because he was so good with 2 strikes. He was just shortening up, taking what the pitcher gave him. That's what the Rangers have been going after. That's kind of been their entire MO this postseason, and that's I think a big reason why they're up 2-0 here and why they beat the. There goes Evan Carter again.
Yeah.
Jesus,
No, that's. I mean, that's you're talking about Bellinger. That's what he did during his MVP
Hmm.
type years, and then he was very good at the two strike approach. But that's what you kind of have to do in the playoffs. I mean,
Hmm.
playoffs. It's all going to be about high velocity pitching and getting at the top of the zone. But if you're able to foul some pitches off and just get more to contact, I mean, you hear the age old thing in the playoffs: a single is a rally.
Yep.
I mean, you just need people who can just put the ball in play. I mean, you put the ball in play, you don't know what happens, especially in the playoffs. There's weird bounces. I mean, last night watching it wasn't a playoff game, but watching the Dodgers and Diamondbacks last night, because game one starts tomorrow. But just the Dodgers put a couple balls in play that in the regular season it's probably just an out, but one of them hit off the Ryan Thompson's glove and like shot almost like halfway to third base. Kike like did one up the middle that like hit off the pitcher's glove, and then it was an infield single because Cattell Marte dove and stopped it, but couldn't get anybody out. Another one's like hidden contact there, and the pitcher hit his glove to the second baseman. It's just most of the times you don't see those plays during the regular season. It's just something about playoff baseball, and if you put the ball in play, weird things happen.
Hmm. Mm.
Yeah,
Sure. So,
it's.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's definitely important to, in the postseason to not to try to put as much pressure on the other team as possible. That's something
Yeah.
I've kind of, the regular season. A lot of times, there's not a lot of pressure, even in close games. Maybe the last
Oh,
week of the season, um, there
Just,
could be some, but
fly ball.
yeah, he's got it. Um, Maybe the last week of the season and in big time, in big time like division races and stuff, it can be that way. But like for the most part in the regular season, um, it's not. But in the postseason, like just a walk, I hit last night. The Braves rally started on a single by Olson,
mm,
and it was the first rally. And then in the eighth inning, when they took the lead, it was a hit by pitch on Acuna that was really the big reason that they were able to come back. And that's the kind of things that you see a lot of in the postseason. I mean, I know the didn't the Diamondbacks, like, I wasn't watching the start of the game last night, the Dodgers Diamondbacks game, but didn't the Diamondbacks bunt a bunch of times in the first inning and like just the Dodgers just couldn't deal with it?
Yeah, so Carroll walked, and then Cattell Marte bunted him over. He got on though, and then Fam broken bat singles, I think is what it was, and then forget how they scored the first one.
I know
Oh,
Gurriel
Christian
hit
Christian
Walker.
Walker.
Christian
Yeah.
Walker
yeah,
hit
he
a
hit a sac
two-run
fly.
double.
No, he hit a
Or no, no, it
sac
was sac
fly
fly.
to
Outman made the jumping
Altman, made a
catch at
good
the
catch.
wall.
Yeah, and
Um, and then I think they bunted again later or something. They had like
I
three or
think
four bunts in that
yeah,
game.
Perdomo or somebody bunted because it got him out of the double play, and that's when
Yeah,
Marino drove in the second run on the ground out.
yeah,
Then Pham singled and got to second base, and then the Gurriel got a hit to bring it in. But
yeah.
The
um,
biggest thing is that all of that happened because the Diamondbacks have been shortening up, hitting the ball, getting the ball in play, putting pressure on the Dodgers defense. If they didn't do that, then there wouldn't be any of those runs, right? Like,
uh,
we talk about you want to have, a lot of home runs, you want to have a lot of power, home run can change the game, but in a short series, in 5 game series, you have got to get the ball in play. If you strike out 10, 15 times out of 27 outs, you're willingly giving away opportunities. And the worry is that if your team is built around power, built around potentially striking out a lot, um, that doesn't translate so well in the postseason. We see that all the time. The Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009 because that team really doesn't focus on strikeouts at all. They've acquired Stanton, they've acquired Judge. Those guys can't come up clutch every time because it's hard for them to shorten up, get the bat on the ball, and just put it in play and see what happens.
yeah, and if you look around at the favorites right now, the fewest strikeouts in the league. Um, you've got Houston and Atlanta right there in the top five. Those are probably the two favorites to win the World Series. So it's. I mean, and Atlanta just has done everything well, but like Arizona's number four. Like fewest strikeouts in the league. Atlanta, Arizona, Houston are on the top five because they pair that with having hitting for power to they still got guys who hit for power, even if they are able to not strike out a lot. So definitely a big deal there. But we'll it's been interesting. This whole postseason's been really fun so far. I guess we can talk a little bit about the other games here while we're watching the Orioles. It's been a really
Sure.
fun start. So we haven't mentioned the Twins and Astros series yet. It's 2-1 Astros after the game
Yeah.
today. They kind of did
Here's a
Astros things today.
here's a fun question that we could bring up while we're just kind of mentioning the Astro series. Which playoff hitter would you rather face? Playoff Jordan or playoff Corey Seager?
Seager.
I don't
Yeah.
know. He's
I'd rather
been
face Seager.
crushing too.
Seager's incredible, but I mean Jordan has a track record of being on another level from anybody else in the postseason already. Like he's just been incredible. So I mean, I don't want to face either one of them, but
Right. Um, yeah, I mean,
Round
so
up for O'Hearn.
yeah, talking about the Astros and Twins series. I mean, game one, I think it's sort of what we expected through a Justin Verlander game in the playoffs. Like he just went in, kind of handled his business, kind of just took over that game. Astros go ahead and win it, and then game two. I mean, I don't know. I guess you can call it the Carlos Correa game. I mean, the couple hits he had there and that defensive stop to end the game to allow the Twins to take that win was just incredible itself. And then obviously game three today with what Abreu hitting two homers, Jordan hitting one. The Astros just kind of routing the Twins there. Um, I think so far it's kind of been, to me at least, it's kind of been what I expected from this series. Like game one, Verlander took over. Game two, the Twins found a way to steal one in Houston, and then like game three, I don't think I expected a blowout, but I expected Houston to kind of bounce back that way. Um, and like to me, they looked really really good today. So I don't know what are your guys' thoughts on the series?
the one
Yeah.
thing that I was gonna say, the one thing the Twins have going for them is that their pitching is deep enough with their starters that they're gonna still have good starting pitchers remain left to throw. Because I think they're gonna throw Ryan tomorrow. So, and the Astros, I know they'll have Verlander start again, before the series ends. But the Twins do have an avenue to come back if Ryan and then Lopez maybe pitching Game 5 could shove in these last two games.
Yeah, so Verlander would be game five,
Yep.
I
I
think,
think
if it's
so.
there. This is tomorrow. Jose Urquidy,
Yeah, so I mean,
something down there.
you would like to think that favors tomorrow's game favors the Twins with it being Urquidy versus Joe Ryan because Joe Ryan's pretty good and I mean Urquidy's pretty hit or miss. So I mean, Game 5, all bets are off. You'd probably be starting Pablo Lopez. I think it would be on short rest for him
Hmm.
in Game 5 because he started Game 2. So you never know what might happen
Yeah,
there, but um, definitely.
probably.
You never, game fives. If you just get it to game five, if you're the Twins, like it's kind of the way you kind of have to look at it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing about the way that series has gone is that it's the only series that you know I think. Well, I guess the Braves won last night. I kind of had written them off in my head because
yeah,
they had gotten off to such a bad start, but it was going to be the only series that had been competitive by the team that was on the bye until the Braves won yesterday. So you know the buy has shown to not be so advantageous. These teams that have been able to get in there and play a couple games in the wild card series and get into a rhythm have really just taken it to the team that was on the bye. That said, the Astros won the World Series last year with the one seed in the AL and the bye, so it's not like it's a total negative, but it just some teams are built with rhythm. I think the Braves were one of those teams. I think the Dodgers are really a rhythm team.
Yeah.
and that they've been kind of knocked out of their rhythm
You know,
because of that.
I'm gonna disagree with that a little bit because I think that the big issues for these teams that have struggled coming off the bye aren't necessarily related to the bye because if you look at the Dodgers, all the pitching injuries they have and also the Urias situation, like they're pitching an injured Kershaw in game 1 and then a rookie in game 2 who while he might be good, he's still a rookie, and game 1 was just a wash because it was 6-0 in the first inning. I mean, there what, and then game 2, it wasn't necessarily that they did that horribly at the plate, but they couldn't get the hit when they needed it. So because they had a lot of guys on and everything. So I mean, that's just kind of baseball. It's not that the process was bad. It was just they kind of had some bad result on things. Um, and then if you look at the Braves, I think the Braves, I don't know if it's that they had the bye. I think they just feel the pressure. They feel the pressure of being this 104 win team that they know they're the best team
Hmm.
and that pressure is just really getting to them in that first game. And then last night too. I mean, the Braves are swinging through pitches they haven't swung through all year. I mean, Wheeler looked awesome last night. I don't want to take anything away from what Zach Wheeler did, but the Braves were chasing high fastballs a foot above the zone. I mean, they were swinging through pitches right down the middle. Like it was things we hadn't really seen, and they just looked real uptight. And I know the announcer last night said something about nervous energy in the building, and that's how the team kind of felt. It just they seemed anxious, and then just when they got down and they were able to scratch across the run, I think they just settled down a little bit. So that series is going to be really interesting because I know Philly has a really good home field advantage, but it feels like the Braves are really in it now, like in a way that they hadn't been.
Yeah.
I don't think they were in it like this last year ever because last year they the same thing happened. They won game 2, but it was it just didn't feel the same. Like they had a bunch of weak hit balls that snuck through, and they won like 3-1 in game 2. Good start from Kyle Wright last year in game 2. This year, it feels a little bit different. And I'll tell you, game 3 is an absolute must win for the Phillies. They have to win that game because game 4 you're facing Strider again with Suarez pitching and Nola's pitching game 3. So you really need to win that matchup against the Braves team that who knows they haven't even announced their starter and nobody really knows who it's going to be. So I don't even know if the Braves know who it's going to be. So the Phillies really need to win game 3 and then if it's kind of like how I think game 4 is must win for the Braves regardless of what happens tomorrow. I mean, if they lose tomorrow, game 4 becomes a must, obviously that's a win or go home game. But if they win tomorrow, I think that you really need to take advantage of going up 2-1 in the series, not having to face Zach Wheeler again. You got the pitching matchup in your favor. Like, I think game 3 is must win for Philly and game 4 is must win for Atlanta, no matter what happens.
Yeah, as far as the LA series, this was not a like this matchup. Obviously, the pitching has been a problem with Kershaw pitching injured and Bobby Miller, pitching, being a rookie in the playoffs. But that offense, I don't know if it was the break or what it is, but they just look completely like disinterested almost. Like they have no energy in there. Um, Literally through the first two games of the series, they're batting 159. Like it's terrible what they're doing at the plate right now. They've averaged 11 runs or 11 opportunities with runners in scoring position per game in the regular season. So far, they've had, I think, 8 or 9 altogether this series, like through two games. It's their offense is just awful. Um, um, yes, it did. Yeah, it worked. Um,
It's because I have this one fixed up. I had to switch the screen.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
we're good now. No,
but
until the computer starts updating.
just the lack of energy from the offense at all. Like
Hmm.
they don't look like the same team they looked like through 162. And I don't know if that's
Right.
the um, if that's the layoff, if it's the just the lack of having they're being down through the first inning right away, if it's a shell shock to them or what. But um, the energy from that team, it's not good, and the amount of pitches that they're missing in the middle of the zone or this and that, like Freddie watched a curveball last night that was right down the middle from Zach Gallen for strike
Yeah,
three.
what were the bases loaded,
Yeah,
or were there
bases were
two
loaded.
on?
I think bases were loaded. It was like a 3-2 count,
Get two outs.
2 outs, and it was like a curveball right down the middle, which is a pitch he just normally crushes. And he watched it, and it was just like I don't know if he got fooled or what. Like it
Yeah,
just, it
You
just
know,
like that's a ball you see him foul off in the regular season
yeah.
99 times out of 100.
Freddie Freeman is a guy who, in his career, he's his overall numbers in the postseason are really good. But as someone who's watched him in the postseason a lot, he's inconsistent in the postseason compared to the regular season. He's like, because I remember that 2021, that Dodgers Braves series, Freeman struck out like 12 times in a row or something in the first 3 games, and then he came alive, and his numbers at the end of the day ended up looking pretty good. But like he's a guy who has gone through phases in the postseason career that just were, it's almost like he kind of overthinks it and puts too much pressure on himself in the postseason or something. But and there's been a couple of years he's been injured in the postseason that really hadn't helped him. But that's definitely been an issue for him at times. Has been just, you know get having his head in the right spot in the postseason. So
I
it's
mean,
definitely something to watch for.
ever since 2020, he's been really good in the
Yeah,
postseason.
yeah. I mean, he had a
Um,
good postseason in 2021. It's just not the same consistency. Like,
I mean, he
you
hit
expect him to at least.
304,
Oh yeah, no, I
420 on
mean,
base.
like I say, at the end of the day, his numbers have ended up being really good. It's just the consistency aspect of it.
Yeah.
So,
The one, well, that and the one player that's really struggled is Mookie. Like
yeah,
Mookie has really, really struggled in the postseason ever since 2021.
yes,
Um, but it's just that team just looks like they have no energy. Um, it it's really frustrating watching them. The one thing I will say is this year it's not Dave Roberts' fault. Like if you watched that game last night, Dave, that was a masterclass by Dave Roberts to
mhm.
keep that game at
He-
a 3-run lead at first, and then even the pitch that gave the Diamondbacks the fourth run from Lourdes Gurriel's homer was like a nasty curveball that was out of the zone, almost on the plate, and Lourdes Gurriel pulled it for a homer. But it was the pitching changes when they needed to, and then everyone wanted to fault him because they brought in a lefty, and it's like to face Jason Hayward and David Peralta, and it's like he pinch hit for with Kike and Chris Taylor, and everyone's like, well, Dave Roberts blew the game, and it's like, no, like you're gonna do that against a lefty. I think the one thing you could say is Miguel Rojas, he got pinch hit for Colton Wong in the
yeah.
spot, but like at that point, it's the handed matchup. It's like Rojas had not been good against righties.
I get that part of it, but Colton Wong's got a 48 WRC plus on the season, and look who came up in the ninth inning. I mean,
Yeah,
it,
I mean, it's not like Rojas was all
yeah.
a ton better.
No, I mean he was a 70, and then Kike Hernandez, had a couple of plays defensively that could have cost the Dodgers too. After he had to play shortstop, which he's proven this year he's not really good at shortstop. I mean, he went the Red Sox. They tried it when Story was out, and he was bad there. So I mean, I'm not, I think that, and last night Dave Roberts did a good job with the bullpen, and I was gonna be real critical of him pulling Bobby Miller so early because it seemed like he was starting to settle down a little bit, but it was also, it ended up working out with not giving up a lot of runs. But I mean, the thing that has always kind of bothered me a little bit about Dave Roberts in the postseason is that he seems to overmanage a lot. Like he seems to, real early in the game, he'll pinch hit for players, and he just seems to, like, I don't know. You know, I don't know if
I
it's,
have
it
I
feels like it's
think
kind of
that's
doubled
a
too.
I
It's
think that's a baseball wide problem.
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Well,
can
Overmanaging
be.
in the
Yeah,
the
playoffs,
real
and
problem is the Dodgers are so analytical to the point where they play the handed matchups so heavily
Yeah.
that they do it doesn't matter if it's in the third inning. If you started Jason
Yeah.
Hayward and David Peralta, it doesn't matter if your right-handed starting pitcher went 2 innings. If you bring in a lefty, you're gonna bet they're going to pinch hit for the right-handed players and then play the rest of the game with the right-handed batters. It's just the way the Dodgers philosophy has
Yeah.
always been on the platoon
And,
based players.
and I was gonna say a part of that's that's the team construction too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the team construction's not great because the way they constructed the pitching staff, and I mean the bullpen's been really good, but they brought in a bunch of guys who they had a bunch of guys in the pitching staff coming off of injury this year, or who have dealt with injuries in the past, like pretty
yeah,
heavily. So I mean Kershaw, you never know how healthy Kershaw is going to be. Walker Bueller, it seems like they were kind of counting on him to come back,
they
and
were.
it's shouldn't be expected for him to come back this year off of Tommy John surgery. I know he tried really hard, his recovery went well, and but it's kind of like the whole thing with the Braves and Kyle Wright at the end of the season. Like rushing back is not going to do any good. His stuff's not going to be there. He's going to be rusty. It's going to take some time. And now Kyle Wright's out next year, so Walker Bueller luckily kind of took it a little bit. I don't mean take it easy, but like he didn't overdo it to where he's going to miss next year. Of
Yeah.
course, who
Mhm.
knows what team it'll be for, but
He's
um,
still signed with the Dodgers for next
or
year.
he's with the Dodgers through next year.
Yeah,
It's
through
it's
next
after
year.
it's the year after. Okay, that's
Yeah.
right.
This was
But
the year they were going to lose Urias
right, and now, well,
and his issues.
who knows if he'll ever play again.
Um,
But
a quick mention, real quick. The Ranger, or, sorry, the Orioles just intentionally walked Corey Seager to load the bases with
yeah,
2 outs in the bottom of the second with Mitch Garver up here. So big at bat here for the
He's oh
Rangers.
there
Oh,
and
Garver
Mitch
down the
oh
Garver
line,
just
wow.
double. It's gonna be probably a
the
two
range.
I think
This
runs.
it's gonna
game
be
this
Yeah,
two
they
runs.
don't push Seager. Yeah, 2 run double. So Rangers are up
that's
3-0.
that's
Yeah,
8 walks for Corey Seager,
Yeah,
and that's 2 more RBI for Mitch Garver.
yeah.
are
So I
you
want
ready
to
for?
say he had a grand slam already.
Hmm.
Um,
Y'all get ready
we don't
for
want to
game one of the ALCS. Verlander versus
put.
Scherzer.
The
Oh
Texas
baby,
series, and yeah, the Mets
Verlander versus
rotation.
Scherzer. Yep,
Mitch.
the
That'll
Mets
be
rotation.
that'll be 7 RBI in this series for Mitch Garver.
Yeah,
But man,
So
I mean,
man,
if they get to the ALCS, I think the Rangers are expecting they'll have Montgomery, who's been really good in the
hmm,
postseason. And then I think they're
Evaldi.
expecting to get, and Evaldi's been good so far. And he's always been a good postseason
he,
pitcher.
yeah,
And they're expecting
He's
to
the
get
World Series
possibly,
champion.
yeah, and they're expecting to possibly get Scherzer back
yeah,
and John Gray.
yep.
So their pitching injury situation is going to look, and like we saw last night with Max Fried. I mean, even if you pitched in some simulated games coming off the IL or something, the rust can be real. I
Yeah,
mean, last night the rust was definitely real for him. But hey, what a good pickup Mitch Garver has been for the Rangers this year. Like last
finally
year he
paying off.
struggled and was injured. This year he's been really, really good, and it's definitely something that who did they even trade him for him? Was it
Oh, that was the
I know. Hmm.
was it,
oh, I'm forgetting
was it a
now.
pitcher?
I'm trying to get.
Kiner Falefa
That's right. And then they
That's
flipped
yeah,
him and
for the
Donaldson
Twins, who went.
for
Yeah,
yeah.
Urshela and Sanchez and
I thought
whoever
it was
else.
right around the Gary trade, but I didn't think. I don't
Yeah.
know. Didn't know if it was in it or
Yeah,
not.
they immediately flipped Connor Falefa. But I mean, Connor Falefa for Mitch Garver looks like a pretty good trade right now.
Yeah,
oh yeah, and Mitch Garver. I mean, he's able to. You know, the comfort of having a Mitch Garver was that Jonah Heim is able to develop into a star catcher.
Yeah.
You know, Mitch Garver's not someone you have to force to get behind the plate because that bat is pretty good.
Yeah.
It allows Jonah Heim to kind of develop in
Yeah.
behind, and now he's taken over that starting
He's
catcher
going to
job.
be,
Mitch Garver is their, righty.
he could be a
He's a
DH.
yeah.
DH. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
he's perfect for a backup catcher on days that you need a catcher. Like you don't want to have Jonah Heim catch, day game after night game, that kind of thing during the regular
Yep.
season, and then DH, and he crushes lefties, and Jonah Heim is a lefty, so occasionally if
Oh,
uh
Jonah's a
oh,
switch.
Oh,
That ball is
Adolis.
Yeah, Adolis is
crushed.
gone.
And it's 6 to
Um,
0. This
Yeah.
might be a short live stream.
yeah. Jonah is a switch hitter, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't he
um,
But
hit better from the
he's
left side
hey,
though.
he does hit
I
better
think
from the
so.
left side.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
he's
I mean,
effectively a lefty. I mean,
shout out to Mitch Garver for. I mean,
yep.
this is a guy who always battled injuries, has always battled injuries. I mean, even this year,
Uh,
87 games, but hit 270, 19 homers in 87 games, a 138 WRC plus. Like, and for a guy who's not a notorious defensive catcher and spending the rest of his time at DH, I mean, he had 2.1 WAR already this year. Like in that
Yeah.
limited sample size, like if he had got a full year, I mean, you're looking at a 3.5 to 4 win player, which is as a backup catcher slash DH is a really strong season.
Yeah.
yeah.
But, hey, look at another St. Louis Cardinals outfielder they gave away for nothing.
Yeah.
Hitting another home run in the
Look, we're
postseason.
not complaining, all right?
Yeah, him and Rosa Reyna.
Sandy Alcantara, Zach
Yeah,
Gallen,
obviously
Well,
Zach
he's an
four
Gallen. I forgot
four
about
outfielder.
him.
star
Golly.
players currently in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Or well, have also been wiped out, but given Alcantara.
Yeah.
yeah,
Man, Adolis Garcia's
yeah.
he's this type of player
Oh,
that can carry your entire team for weeks on end. He'll disappear for weeks on
yeah.
end. Very Javi Baez, but
You know,
man, that guy can mash a
he had
middle fastball.
he had been that way forever, but this year he really took a step forward with his plate discipline. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, from 6% walk rate to 10% walk rate.
yeah, like
Strikeout
his
rate's still 27%, but
yeah, he strikes out a lot, but like he's putting up better at bats on a
mhm.
consistent level than he did
Yeah.
his first couple of years. Because I mean, this year he had a 330 on base percentage, whereas in the past he barely cracked 300. So,
Yeah,
and he's also a very good defender in the outfield too. So,
They moved him to right field. That's what's
yeah,
helping too.
yeah,
and
He's
he
a
was
big arm guy,
yeah, he was pretty good
no
at
range,
center.
big arm.
He was pretty good in center too when he was playing there, but he's real good in right field. So,
remember all the talk when we were talking about how, like, man, the Rangers need outfield help. The Rangers need outfield help, and now we're looking at like Evan Carter, Leody Taveras, and Adolis Garcia being like a really good outfield.
yeah,
Like they've
Oh yeah.
done a
And
really good job. And if you look at the like mention that you look at their holes, there's always a team that's been super aggressive in free agency, especially under Chris Young. We're talking about Seager and Simeon, sure, but I mean, where's their holes? Like, what do they have to improve on now on the
I
offensive
mean,
side?
on the offensive side, I mean,
I mean, you got Jonah Heimgarver, you got Nate Lowe, you got Seager,
yeah,
Simeon, Josh Jung, and then we're talking about Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia, and then Leody Taveras has turned into a very serviceable center fielder.
yeah, he's serviceable. You could
And
probably upgrade there, but he's serviceable. And I mean, the big thing for
don't
the Rangers is that just they need to the pitching staff. I mean,
they just need to
the
stay
starting,
healthy, even.
yeah,
If you
but I
got
mean that's
Scherzer, DeGrom, I
that's
mean,
part of bringing in
Eovaldi.
that's part of the
they,
Degrom thing though.
y'all
Like,
wanted a center fielder. Wyatt Langford is in AAA already.
oh
He had a
yeah,
177 WRC plus in AAA. He'll be up
forgot they
in
got him.
May of next year.
Right?
They have a wealth of riches right now, and
Yeah,
it's pretty wild how
yeah,
quickly it all came together. Too, this is a group that 2 years ago did not have Seager, did not have Simeon. Was kind of a bottom feeder. Remember, they picked third, picked Kumar Rocker, picked fourth this last year, picked Wyatt Langford. So, this is not a team that's been winning. And now we're watching them win 6 to 0 in game 3 of the ALDS, looking, in my opinion, like a World Series, favorite at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
we just thought this offense
yeah.
looks pretty unstoppable. Is that the Baltimore pitching? Maybe, but they also slammed the Rays, whose pitching is really good. We know their pitching development, their analytics is really good. That's a team that should be inducing whiffs. They didn't induce any whiffs on this Rangers team.
And
Yeah.
part of that also is the Rays might have played the worst defense of any
Yeah,
team I've ever seen in the postseason. Like it was
but
just
then that goes back to the Rangers are
yeah.
not whiffing. The
Oh yeah,
Rangers are out
no
here
doubt.
making
I mean,
contact, forcing defenses to make
yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
And
Same thing the Diamondbacks are doing right now.
for the reputation the Rays have had over the past several years, their defensive numbers this year were not as good. I mean, they
Well, they did lose Kiermaier.
exactly. I
who
mean, they
was
lost
the
Kiermaier.
stalwart.
Yandy Diaz is bad in the field, even though he's a really good player. Paredes isn't very good at third
He's
base. Like
yeah,
Wander Franco was really holding them up defensively. Brandon Lau's not a great defender at second, and then he's been injured, and they
yeah. You
just
got like Harold
Curtis
Ramirez
Mead.
and
Curtis Mead's
yeah,
not a good defender. Outfield, yeah, Rayleigh not a good defender. I mean, Margot's okay, and Rosarina is not a very good defender. So it's
yeah,
they just don't have a lot of defense on that team. They're athletic, but they don't play great defense. So,
Yeah.
um,
correct.
you know, you have to get whiffs.
Talk about
That's
a team that's probably going to make some major overhaul moves this year. It's probably going to be the Rays. I mean, you're probably going to see Glass now get traded. He's 1 year deal. He's got for like $25
25
million.
million. Yeah.
He's definitely getting traded. Like Manny Margot, I could see him easily getting re- traded
I,
as well.
just remember that the Rays have a wealth of riches at the upper minors at the
Hmm.
corner infield spots
Yep.
between Caminero, Mead, Paredes, Yandy. They just traded Manzardo
Yeah.
to the Guardians, right? They have the what's that guy's name? He's 25 years old. We put him in the trade deadline one.
Uh,
Um,
Arunda or Aranda?
Travis
yeah,
Aranda.
Aranda. They
Aranda.
have a lot of guys in that mold, right? Luke
Yeah.
Raley is also a first baseman. Really, probably shouldn't be in the outfield, and Harold Ramirez. So their strength is very clearly those kind of corner infield spots. I would not be
It's
surprised if Paredes was on the move, Harold Ramirez goes on the move, um, maybe Rayleigh, but just trying to capitalize on the upside. Like that's a group that can make some changes without getting worse. The biggest problem for them is that Wander Franco's
we
not
don't
going to
know.
be
Gone.
back.
Yeah.
Like,
I
and
honestly, or go ahead.
you got it. I was
All I was gonna say is like honestly, like that might be, unfortunately, with everything that's happened. This nobody wants the situation with Wander Franco.
No.
That, but that might be a big savior to the Rays because of that contract. Like when he's on this list, they're not gonna have to pay him. That's a big
yeah,
contract for Tampa
You,
Bay Rays history. So
you
that
know, I
might give them a
wonder
little bit more financial flexibility, um,
right.
the thing.
just in the short term at least.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't know what was. Yeah,
Eovaldi is
that was
disgusting.
nasty. What was
Jordan Westberg had no chance.
yeah. What was the
96, 78, 78. Gone. Bye.
what did Felipe Vasquez receive on his suspension? Was
What
it
do you
a
mean?
ban?
Lifetime?
Was it a lifetime ban? I don't.
Yeah, I thought so.
Um,
I mean, he's in jail, so it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
from a is he going to play baseball standpoint. But
We're getting between Felipe
yeah,
Vasquez and Wander Franco, we're getting to the Mr. Krabs. If I
I
had a nickel every time that happened, it'd be weird. I had two.
yeah, I don't know if he actually got his official like MLB sanction. I think he's just on like one of the lists or something still because he just is in
He's on a
jail.
list.
Well,
yeah, well, yeah, but
yeah,
it's important as to what list he's on because
Right.
they
if
don't
he's
have to pay him.
if you give him
Wander's
a
a lot more.
162
Yeah.
game suspension, and I mean obviously no team's going to ever pick him up, but what's the actual suspension going to be? So are there because if he just gets 162 if Franco gets 162 games, then and the Rays cut him because he's a criminal, then they still have to pay everything after that 162 games. So I don't know what exactly how that's going to work.
I'm assuming that it's going to be like you did something way above
Yeah,
like that like it. I doubt that the Pirates or the Rays are going to be responsible for any of those contracts, to be honest, because I think the
You
way that
can't
they're
be.
going to be into, I think the league will basically say like, well, you're not. It's kind of the moral clause type thing, like you're not getting paid for that um
Right.
type
My
type stuff. So
my you can't make because how baseball is ultimately a business, right? But at the same time, you cannot have, especially now that's happened twice. You cannot have teams afraid to pay players based on them maybe doing something, right? I mean, because we're going to assume all our players are wholesome,
Yeah.
not participating in lewd activities, and what, the Rays give out the richest contract in franchise history, and the
Yeah.
guy spends half a season before he completely wastes it and is now out of baseball, right? You can't make the Tampa Bay Rays afraid to pay players,
Yeah.
right? And
I
you
think
already
that.
have a hard enough time getting them to pay, big free agent contracts.
Yeah. So, yeah, the
Um,
Rays are going to be one of the more interesting teams to watch this offseason because, I mean, we always say don't trade with the Rays, but there's going to be some there's going to be some movement there, and
Yeah.
I would definitely not be surprised. Like, if you asked me a player that I thought 100% is most likely to get traded this year, I think Tyler Glasnow's number one on
Glasnow.
that list.
I
Yeah.
could.
Like,
I would not be surprised at all to see him get
like
moved.
him
It's
on 1 year, $25 million. Like,
Yeah.
somebody's going to take that.
Yeah. And the
right.
fact of the matter too is that with the pitching market, you've got
Yeah,
Nola and
Yamamoto. We haven't talked about him.
yeah,
right. You've got the
Yamamoto's
Yamamoto,
real good.
Nola, and there's one Snell.
Sonny Gray,
Snell,
Blake Snell,
Sunny Gray is a free agent.
yeah,
So
Sonny
yeah,
Gray's a free
Jordan
agent.
Montgomery,
Montgomery kind of on that
Yep.
second level, but like Glass now,
Montgomery might get like 90 million or something. He's probably going to get more than
he's gonna get a
Taillon
lot,
and
but I'm talking
Senga.
like Blake Snell
ace
is
level.
probably gonna get probably more than he should. He's probably gonna get like a Robbie Ray deal. I
S-
mean,
Yeah,
what I've
yeah,
been looking at and just talking to people about these kind of free agent deals, because the Cubs are looking to start at the top, right? They're not going to be signing any more Jameson Tyone deals. If they're going to get a guy, it's going to be one of these,
that's what they
upper
should have done
echelon types to sit there with
already.
Steele at the top of the rotation. The deal we've been thinking, I assume, is that Nola gets something comparable to the Gosman deal. I assume Snell's going to get more. I don't think Snell gets John Lester money. Lester got 155 over 6 years. I don't think Snell's going to get
Yeah,
there.
Snell should.
so
Um,
here's
so
here's
Snell won't
the
get Rondone money.
no. So here's the thing. Robbie Ray coming off his Cy Young season got 5 years at 115.
It's
Right.
almost a carbon copy of the whole of the Snell situation too. Like guy who has good strikeout stuff, has been really good at times, has struggled with walks at times, has a good year in his contract year,
Man.
but there's some question marks about his peripherals being actually as good as his numbers ended up.
Right.
It's just really similar to what Robbie Ray is. So
Yeah,
he'll probably get a little bit more than Robbie Ray because the name brand value and the fact that
Two
Robbie
Cy
Ray was
Youngs.
he's
and
at
two
two
Cy
Cy Youngs.
Youngs, and Robbie Ray was really bad for like 2 years, and
Yeah,
Blake
Yeah.
Snell was bad but not really bad for a
Yeah,
couple
Snell's
years.
Snell's floor, which we've seen, is
Yeah,
like a 4.
yeah,
Robbie Ray's floor was like
like a 2 or 1.
DFA.
Yeah, I mean he
yeah,
basically
So
did get
it just was on a
DFA'd. I mean
bad Diamondbacks
he
team
got
that
traded
didn't
for
DFA him.
yeah he got traded for nothing. I mean
yeah.
Yeah.
I could see Snell getting like 5 for 125 or 130.
yeah I could see
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm anticipating. The Yu
Yeah,
Darvish deal, really. Maybe with a less year, but maybe
yeah.
a little more
I
money.
mean, and if he wants to push for more years, because sometimes you see pitchers that want the security over the AAV. Maybe he
Right.
pushes for like a 6 year 135 or something just to get that
Right.
extra year or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
There'll be a lot of teams. There'll be a lot of teams pitching hunting. Right. The Dodgers are
well,
already definitely going to be in on pitching. I
yeah,
think
Cardinals.
and through the whole
Cardinals,
thing is because of the unfortunate Julio Urias
Orioles.
situation. Blake Snell jumps to probably the top
Oh
left-hander on the
yeah.
market.
Yep.
Like Julio was probably going to be the number one, even with his down year this year, and then it was going to be Snell. Now it's like Snell and then what, Montgomery is probably your number
Probably
two. Like,
for lefties.
yeah, if you're looking for a lefty, which some teams target the lefty arms. Um, so it's going to be really, really fascinating to see what this pitching market shapes out to be. Like, who's the one starting pitcher? Because we always see the one that jumps the market. Who do we feel is going to be the one pitcher to jump the market this year?
Um, you mean like sign first?
Yeah, like we always see him that like we always say like, oh, they're always waiting for each other. I I feel like Sonny Gray is going to be the one to say like,
Maybe.
I want to get it
Yeah.
done first, and I
Yeah.
would not be surprised if it's back with Minnesota.
He's a veteran.
Neither would
Yeah,
I.
I wouldn't be surprised. So, hey,
Here, here's
I
here's
gotta
the way
run.
I see this
Yeah,
going.
later, Matt. We
Right.
know you gotta
Yeah,
run.
I gotta get out at 8. I appreciate it, everyone watching, and thanks for. It's fun to have the streams. I wish I could be here for the whole thing, but enjoy watching the rest of the 6-0 ball game. So
Yeah, we
we'll
will.
uh we'll talk. I'll talk to everybody soon, hopefully.
Yeah,
Appreciate it, Matt.
Yep.
See you later,
Thanks,
buddy.
guys. See you later.
and then there were two.
And then there were two. So, okay, so here's my let me give my off-season scope prediction is that Shohei Otani holds up the market anyway. I think it's a matter of even if I was a team that was just expecting to sign Sonny Gray, right? A Minnesota Twins, a Baltimore Orioles. I'm we're still waiting because I think there's going to be more teams in on Shohei than are going to let on. And that's a single. Oh,
Mullins almost caught
Jonah
that.
Heim. He did. That was almost a really good play. That's another
My
guy. I think the Orioles are going to move somebody in the outfield this year. Um,
probably.
I don't know
Um,
who. I think Santander, but
it might be. We were just Hank and I, our buddy, we were just looking at it the other day, like Santander is like their oldest player on the roster, and he's like of the core players. I think he's 28 now.
28. Yeah.
Um, but of like the core players, it's like him and Mullins are both like 28 or something. It's like it's insane.
This is a very young Orioles team.
Yeah, they'll definitely be
Kyle
back around.
Gibson is the oldest player on the team.
Yeah. Um. So jump it back to the Otani talk here. The only problem, Nate comes in the chat. Damien sucks, but Hank sucks more.
That's true.
All right. Look, I got you a win at Talladega, pal. All right. All right. All is forgiven there. Um, back to the Otani thing. I think that I think he has more of an idea of where he wants to the teams he wants to
You
target.
might.
It's not going to be
Right.
about who wants to target him. Otani's such a weird unicorn type personality, even of he very much likes certain things and he minds certain things and he wants it a certain way. Like he is going to target teams that he wants to go to. And I would not be surprised if like every team's going to pay him. Like if Otani goes and says,
Right.
"Look, I want to be on your team," you're going to pay him what he wants, most likely. So I
Right.
wouldn't be
You'll
surprised
you'll
if
get
like
him you'll get him his number. You'll get him his number, but I think the contract will be very creative
right
to get to that
to
number.
to where I think I wouldn't be surprised is if we get into the off season and we see a like an Otani go to teams and say like, "Look, here's the 4 or 5 teams that I want to target, that I want to go to." And basically just say like these are basically the 5 that I will talk to almost. And then basically make that known if it's not even if it's out in the
Yeah.
public, but behind the scenes, like they know, hey, obviously like that, to where you can go and target a maybe a Sonny Gray or an Aaron Nola or somebody who might other teams might be like, hey, we're in on Otani, and if we get him, then maybe don't have the money to sign this other pitcher this year, or a team like LA, like if the Dodgers were to, they need pitching regardless. And if Otani's not going to
Right.
pitch this year,
Right.
so they're going to need to sign another pitcher anyways. But if they're so focused on getting Otani, and let's say Aaron Nola is their second target, well, if I mean I don't know, let's just
If the car, let's say the Cardinals are not going to sign
yeah,
Otani,
yeah,
they go get jump on Nola and go grab him.
yeah,
Now the Dodgers are on option 3
yeah,
because they've been focused on Otani. I see,
absolutely.
and I think
I think you're going to
that
see
is the
more of that
question: is
happen this
who
year.
who does that?
I think
Yeah,
you're going to see more of
who's
that
going to
happen.
go for that? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think there's a handful of teams that actually think they have a realistic shot at Otani, and I think that 20. I wouldn't be surprised if 25 teams basically are just like we have no shot here. Let's not waste our time.
It's possible, but at the same time, it's one of those things where a lot of agents are going to suggest to their players like wait for Otani because because he's going to set a higher market,
I
right?
don't think that you can.
It's
I don't think any other player on this market is their market's not going to get set by Shohei Otani.
right.
If there's
I
a
mean,
player who's not going to affect any market except his own, it's Otani's. Like I
yeah,
even if he's not going to pitch this year, he's not going to set the pitching market or he's not going to set the market
right.
for DH. I mean, you're going to be talking about $50 million here. Like if he gets 40 or $50 million, I mean, you're not looking at like the next pitcher like Aaron Nola. Like he's not going to get $40 million because Otani got 45 or 50 or anything. Like he's
Yeah.
going to settle into the 20 to $30 million range most likely, and you're going to move on from there.
Cedric Mullins just made a really good running catch.
Yeah,
Um, it, yeah, I guess then I think there's two ways this goes because I think if Otani plays the field a little bit, sees just wants to set, you know, the all-time contract record, I could see him taking his time, holding the market up. If he doesn't and he goes to the five teams, like you said, right, it'd be, Dodgers, Yankees, the teams that are going to pay him the most and, aren't going to bulk at the price, then there's going to be 25 teams that have nothing to do and are
hmm
going to go out there and I think try to jump on those other teams that are locked up in the Otani deals. Um, there'll be a trades, right? We just talked about the Rays. I think the Rays are going to be one of those teams. They're not signing Otani.
no,
So they're going to go out here and try to jumpstart the market on the trade market on all these guys, try to get the most they can for Glasnow, try to get the most they can for, one of those corner infielders. Um, you know, there's plenty
yeah,
of other teams who are going to be attacking right now. I think there might be some, we haven't even talked about the Padres,
yeah,
right, who have already declared they're cutting salary and are going to have to reduce the payroll. And, you know, whether that means trading Juan Soto or trading Cronenworth or trading Yu Darvish or finding a way to, bulk a lot of that money off the payroll, the Padres have to figure out how to do that. There'll be plenty of teams willing to eat a little bit of money, especially early in the offseason when they've got that cash.
yeah. So Nate came in the chat and said, "Hot take: Otani will be a Mariner." I,
I like
I,
it.
yeah, I don't hate that at all. Like if you gave me five teams, Seattle would probably be the third team I would put on that list to
Yep.
be in on Otani. Um, I absolutely could see that being a possibility. Um, Adam, where's Matt? I came from Matt. Well, thank you for um, making us feel bad. But Matt had to leave. He had something else he had to go do tonight.
Yep.
Um, and then Nate back with another hot take: Silverhawks don't make the
Hey,
playoffs next season.
we need to team up, knock them out. I've lost the fantasy playoffs by a combined three categories in 2 seasons.
Yeah, see, I just need to get to the second round of the playoffs. If I just lost Bueller this whole season, and now I just lost Sandy for next season. Like the
Yep.
struggle is real on the Bakersfield Blaze over here.
Yeah. We
But yeah.
we're still
So
I'm still reeling from Grayson getting smashed in game 2 by the Rangers.
I thought you were just
I
say
was
you were
really hoping he
still.
would go out.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were just gonna say you still reeling over Colin McHugh.
I still am, dude. It hurt.
um,
Oh,
so, anyways, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Padres here,
yeah.
real quick. We've talked on the podcast about about the dysfunction between Bob Melvin and AJ Preller. I don't even think we really talked about how AJ Preller came out and said that he's staying. He's got the okay from Peter Seidler, and that Bob Melvin is staying to manage the team next year. I don't think we actually fully were able to dive into that um, on the podcast just because it was playoffs were starting and stuff. But we there was also that article about they're right about $250 million of payroll this year. They want to kind of find a way to get around 200 ish. I think a big part of that's going to be Blake Snell leaving. I think you're.
That's already including Blake Snell leaving. Their 248 projection is what's on the roster right now,
Is
not
it?
including free
Oh, I think
agents.
that
Yep.
article was before. I thought the article was before the season ended.
They're
Let me see.
projected to start at 248 next year.
Where are we at
They need to cut 50 million to get to
from
200.
that point? See, I thought they
Yeah,
were counting
they were up
Snell.
like 300 this year. They lose Snell. It's pretty
So
much the only free agent they're
let's
losing.
let's uh, let's pull up their the
Their spot
Spotrac.
track.
Yeah,
Yeah, get it up here.
Padres payroll. Let's see. All right, so let's see at 2024, they are about what is that as a team? 2024 active payrolls 165. That's including it's really 153. The retained salary is with Hosmer's 12 million. Um,
Does spot track count ARB? It doesn't, right? Any ARB
um,
contracts that haven't been agreed on, which includes Juan Soto, who's going to set ARB
no,
record 30, 35 million, something like
where's
that.
the yeah? They don't have him in there yet.
Yeah,
Um,
so
so the even then they're
that's a lot of their
so
players.
let's say if that's at 171, they're at 200 with Soto, right? So let's
Right.
look at the rest of them. Like I think Austin Nola is probably a guy who's going to be let go this year.
Yeah.
They have catchers with Campusano and oh, who's the other catcher that they got in there now?
Gary.
Um,
Gary
Gary.
Sanchez,
Yeah, and then they
who
have
is also on ARB, right? He'd be ARB
I think he's
3.
free. I think he's free agent.
Or is he free
I
agent?
think he's
Okay.
free agent.
Well, then he'd probably, yeah.
You do have coming up like probably not this year, but I would say in the next 2 or 3 years, Ethan Salas is going to be a
Yeah.
monster. Um, but I mean, if you're looking at that, that doesn't include Seth Lugo has it's counting his $7.5 million on a player option. He's opting out. Seth Lugo is going to go get more than $7.5 million on the market this year, especially after the year he just had. Um, Matt Carpenter's at 5.5. His luxury tax is 6 million. It's a player option. He's probably going to pick that up.
He's he's picking that up.
Um, but you have club options on Nick Martinez and Michael Waka for $16 million each.
They'll probably have to drop those down.
I would assume that one of those are gone. They still, I don't think you let both go, especially if you're losing Snell and Lugo, because then you're talking about that's two of your rotation members. Waka's really, really good for them this year. I think you keep Waka at probably $16 million. That's probably a steal. And then you have Darvish, Musgrove, Waka, and then you're looking for two starting pitchers next year, and you even have Maury Hone who could potentially fill into that. But
So what I've got is I did find it. So on San Diego Tribune, they said the Padres are already at about $186 million based on guaranteed contracts and guesstimations for arbitration eligible players. That's without signing any free agents. They're already scraping the
well,
first luxury tax
well, yeah, but
barrier,
their plan is
right?
to be around 200. I don't think the luxury tax is the problem. I think it's the level they're at. But I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking about 186 right there, and that's counting Juan
Well,
Soto.
luxury tax is like 230 this year, right? 225. It's up there.
Yeah,
It's
it,
higher
it
than the
has moved up
200.
there now. Um, but if that's counting Soto, I mean, you're talking about if you're at
Yeah,
186 right there, and I'm guessing that's counting the club options being picked up, or yeah, that would have to be assuming both of those got
I
picked
think
up.
so. Yeah,
So if you drop Nick Martinez, that's another $16 million immediately
yeah,
off, and you can go find somebody that's going to give you better production for $16 million than Nick Martinez did this year.
right.
And you're losing the 7.5 from Seth Lugo. I mean, between those two, Lugo's going to opt out. He's not going to stay on $7.5 million. Um, I mean
I
that
guess
gives
the
them some wiggle room to find some more starting pitching, but I don't think that they're in the hole of where they have to trade anybody big right now. I still think they do have enough flexibility, and that's not counting. Now, the one big caveat too here is This is not counting anything to do with Josh Hader, who is a free agent.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
How do you bring, they'll have to fix up the bullpen and the rotation.
well,
Well,
here's the thing: with
the
all the
rotation's already got so
dysfunction,
much money in it.
that we're hearing between Bob Melvin and Josh Hader, I have a very hard time thinking Josh Hader is going to be back. And
Yeah, I don't think so.
they just paid Robert Suarez $10 million a year last year, so he's basically going to be their new closer at that point. Um,
Right.
they I think they're going to be aggressive in certain markets here in the offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if even a guy like Trent Grisham's probably gone. Um,
Yeah, I expect Trent Grisham to be non tendered.
yeah,
I think he's out.
and then Jake Cronenworth, like if they find somebody else
Yeah.
to play first base, I mean that's a 7.5 for or $7.2 million deal. His luxury tax salary is 11.4 next season. That's what he
It's
counts
not
towards the
bad.
luxury tax.
Yeah.
For the level of
But
production he's giving you right now, like that's not.
th- you'd still believe in the Cronenworth bat though. I
I
mean,
don't
this last
I
year
don't
was
know,
bad,
man.
but
Have you seen like
I
his last couple years have not been good.
he's dropped off, right? I was looking at his Statcast page.
Yeah, like this year
He's
alone,
certainly been
a 229,
worse.
312, 92 WRC plus, a one WAR in
He's
127 games.
The problem for Cronenworth is he's stuck at first base.
Yeah,
Base hit.
it just. I mean, even the year before in
You
2022, he hit
his best
17 homers.
value was he was when he was a second baseman. But Ha-Seong Kim
Yeah,
came over and was playing so well at second base that he shoved Cronenworth over to first. Cronenworth's obviously not going to be more valuable at first base.
yeah.
You know, my theory is a team looking to kind of snag a third baseman might be interested in Cronenworth, especially if they're not trying to pay Matt Chapman. Um,
Yeah,
but
maybe.
that'd be trusting Cronenworth to play a position he hasn't played. We know he's athletic. We know he's a good bat to ball guy. He's just been, you'd have to rely on, he was unlucky. The Padres are unlucky. But he would be a guy I would think would have some trade market, but it wouldn't be he wouldn't go for much, right? Because that salary is so high, 80 something million over 7 years. I mean, that's a pretty hefty extension.
Trying to brainstorm some teams where I think he would be a good fit.
It'd have to be a team that wants to take on some money and that needs a third baseman.
Well, he could play second too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need a
Maybe the
second baseman,
Mariners.
yeah,
Mariners need a second baseman.
they do.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, the Mariners have not been opposed to picking up guys who have not been able to hit before, right? Pick up JP Crawford, picked up Eugenio Suarez
Think
off of, what's the guy's name from the Reds? Jesse Winker,
oh
who
yeah,
didn't work out there anyway, but he had been good and then had gone bad and they picked him up anyway. The Mariners like to do that.
yeah.
So,
Wonder if like a that one wouldn't be. I don't know if the Padres would want to make another trade with a player, first base type player who can hit very well, aka Ty France. Like
yeah.
they're hating
Oh,
that deal
Ty
right now.
France, yeah, another one.
But yeah, I mean that it's good. The Padres are going to be really interesting because they're going to have to make some big moves and they don't have a lot of room if that article about them wanting to stay around the $200 million mark is true.
Right.
We
They have to
we
clear space to actually do anything this offseason. Otherwise, they're just running the same team back and then
yeah.
it's pointless.
Honestly, I think if you run the same team back, I mean, this is a team
You
we
might it
were
might go better.
yeah, it was a team that we were picking to be in the
Win the World
playoffs and
Series.
win the West, like
Right.
I just think from the roster construction way of it, they have to just do something to give themselves a little bit more depth because I mean, Machado dealt with his injuries this year. Tatis was out for a while.
Musgrove
Yeah, Tatis was out
injured.
from suspension, then
Darvish injured.
Musgrove. Yeah, like it's just they're gonna have to make some changes here to uh to be competitive again. But
Yeah.
um, what
You'll
else?
definitely hear the Juan Soto trade talk though. It is the thing, right? The big move would be, well, you got to trade. You can trade Juan Soto, pick up a couple major league players and a prospect or two, and clear a bunch of salary to be able to make some of those moves. You're going to hear that. Do I think they should do that? Absolutely not. Do I think my team should go get Juan Soto if they move Juan Soto? Absolutely. And I think 20 teams should have be in on Juan Soto if that happens, right? But that's not the right move, right? If you get a Hall of Fame type superstar in his prime on your team, you need to build around him, right? You need to try to take advantage of that. But you're going to see it. The
Yeah.
talk's going to be there, right? That AJ Preller's under pressure to make a move, right? And if he's under pressure to stay under 200 million and build a World Series contending roster, while running the same team back, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. They're going to have to make a move somewhere.
I
And where's
there
that move coming from? Is it the Juan Soto move or is it something else?
I have a hard time thinking that AJ Preller's ego is going to let him trade Juan Soto with when he's trying to win.
Right.
There's not a way that AJ Preller says like, this is my last year. I have to win. I'm going to trade Juan Soto. Like you're just not doing that. I'm sorry. Like
Right.
you're running back the team of like that top four in that lineup. I mean, the
Mhm.
top four of Soto, Tatis, Bogarts, Machado. Like
Good.
and even Kim, who had a really really good season offensively this year. Like I AJ Preller's
Maybe
not
it's
doing
Kim.
that. No,
Maybe it's Kim.
it's
That would be the
Cronenworth.
like
Kim's super affordable still
it,
too.
the thing about Kim is you get a lot for him, right? You might be able to swing a trade to the Mariners for one of the starting pitchers that's under control.
The
The
problem,
Mariners are going to be another team that we're going to talk about a lot, I think, in terms of trade partners because that's a team with like 8 major league caliber starting pitchers right now.
yeah, the Mariners are going to be interesting, but I don't think the even Kim is the one to. If there is a person to go, I 1000% believe it's going to be Drake Cronenworth. I think he's going to be
Right.
the one. I mean, it just at this point it makes too much sense because of the fact of like you've mentioned he is at first base. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can find somebody there to play first base at that. What a great play by Westberg there, snagging that
Simeon
line
hit it
drive.
about 110 off the bat.
Let's see.
Jake Jordan Westberg grabbed it. Kyle Gibson's in the game now for the Orioles, by the way.
Yeah, this game is bottom of the fourth, still 6-0. That's why we're not talking much about it right now.
Yep.
Um,
Off-season preview is what
we're
we need to
we're
change the
filling
stream to.
right, filling some time here, but um, with Kim just being so good defensively at second base, I just and him taking advantage of the new rules, being able to steal so much. He came into some more power this year. Like it just feels like Cronenworth is the one that kind of has the missed opportunity for them. That hey, we can get a either at I mean, even if it's somebody who has an outfield depth, like what if it's like the Cardinals type, where they're like, hey, we'll trade like a Tyler O'Neill or a Dylan Carlson for Jake Cronenworth, and then use one of the their guys because like we know they want Logan Gilbert, right? What if they
Right.
use one of their guys, the Tommy Edmonds, the um, Brendan Donovan's, the something like that to as part of their trade piece to go get a Logan Gilbert, which is stuff we've heard before. I still think it takes more than that, but what if the Cardinals do something like that? We're like, hey, I don't think the Mariners are going to be looking for a Tyler O'Neill or Dylan Carlson, but the Padres are definitely going to be looking for a guy who can play center, who's affordable. Both of those
Yep.
guys are in there and have high potential, and they could use Cronenworth as the guy at second and use one of their middle infielders to go get that pitcher that they really did want.
This is crafting like a three-team, more like a three-team trade.
Almost, yeah.
I would have to think, and so one of the things that I've seen pop up too is the two guys because Logan Gilbert's really good,
Hmm.
right? Logan Gilbert's almost, and he's probably the most likely to move as he enters R1, right? Woo Kirby, Woo Miller Kirby, Castillo, Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert are all
Hmm.
Mariners starting pitchers at the major league level right now. And they have Emerson Hancock, who was hurt, but he did make his debut. It's like 7 guys. They can definitely deal out of that strength to try to shore up some of their spots, right? And we talked about the Cardinals. One guy that you didn't mention that I think is going to be what you'd have to do to get Gilbert would be
Gorman.
Nolan Gorman. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nolan Gorman. Identical to Nolan Gorman in comparison is Christopher Morel. They had like the same WRC plus this year and like 25 home runs. So I'm real interested into seeing whether either of them move because I don't think I realized that Nolan Gorman was quite that good. And those are I see Christopher Morel's name popping up a lot on Cubs trade rumors, right? And so if I, I always see Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill. Are those guys enough for Logan Gilbert? I'm not thinking so. But what I am seeing is like if it's Nolan Gorman, who just put together 27 homers and a 120 WRC plus, now that gets interesting. I'm just not sure any team's taking on, going for Brendan Donovan, who feels like a Cardinals devil magic guy. Surely the
I
other teams believe in Cardinals devil magic, right? It's been around for years.
I think you
Just
could
ran out
probably
this year.
I think you could probably talk somebody into a Tyler O'Neill. Um, I mean,
He's got so many whiff issues though.
this year
We just
he was down at 25%, walked 10.5% of the time. He he only played 72 games. He was hurt kind of during that. Only a 97 WRC plus, but he's still a really good defender. And I mean, if you look at that 2021 where he was absolutely electric, I mean, sure, he did strike out a lot there, but I mean, that's the type of production you're talking about. A guy who could hit you 30 plus homers. He could hit 260 to 270, hit you a bunch of homers, play really good defense. Like, I think he's still only 28 years old, controllable for 2 years. Like, I think he's a part of that package. Now, am I saying it's a one for one deal?
yeah,
No. But I think you can look at a team like the problem is the Mariners don't need an outfielder. The
right.
Mariners don't need that
Mariners
outfielder.
need Mariners need infield, right?
Right.
Second base
So that's where the
mainly.
if they're trying to go for a starting pitcher, the Cardinals, it could be from somewhere else, or it could be in that 3 team type deal there, where like, hey, O'Neill moves to the Padres. Cronenworth is kind of one of the guys that the can play second base for the Mariners there. And obviously, there's more pieces intertwined there, but maybe that's what's able to get Gilbert to the
Okay,
Cardinals or something
okay.
like that.
Tyler O'Neill to the Padres, Cronenworth to the Mariners, Emerson Hancock to the Cardinals.
No, they're not
That's
doing it for
about that's about
Hancock.
the value it would have to be. You're
I
not
don't think
getting
it's not for
Bryce Miller or
Hancock.
Brian Wu. You're not getting Logan Gilbert for that.
No, I'm
Like,
obviously you have to put more in on, but I'm saying like that could be
yeah,
the start to it. Like I think
it's
because of the way that's more of a fit type based look at it, but
yeah,
there's
right.
just I think that there's going to be some creative things you're going to see this year because I don't know that a lot of people line up with the hey, this is what we want and this is what we're looking for and then this is what you have that we like. Like I
Mhm.
think you're going to see some creative deals this year that are kind
You're
of
gonna we haven't mentioned some of these teams like the Orioles,
mhm,
who are not a team that typically spends in free agency. The Reds are another team that I think is going to get involved in a lot of these trade talks because that's a team that came very close, but is going to need, some significant-ish auditions or additions.
yeah,
They're not going to be paying for it probably. So you're going to expect them to go out and make some trades with a lot of these young infielders that have provided good value. I think Jonathan India is going to be on the move. Is kind of
could
my
be.
guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Which
you know,
which Jonathan India to the Rays? Tyler
that
Glass
makes
now?
sense.
1 year
Now
deal?
there's an interesting thing is are the Reds willing to pay $25 million to a single player not named Joey Votto?
It's only
They
1 year.
haven't done it in a while.
It's only 1 year.
It
Like
is only 1 year. It does make sense.
yeah. And they need top of the rotation.
Hmm.
Like and I don't you're not going to find much more affordable people like at the top of the rotation wanting to come to Cincinnati and the free agent market.
Right.
You're going to have
Cincy
to
is
you're going to have to
Cincy's
make the
hard to pitch in.
trade for that. And that's where I think you could do. I mean, obviously, now the Rays don't need Jonathan India. Like that kind of hurts their infield situation there. But it's kind of what you're talking about the like what they're going to have to be looking for
Right.
either way there. But no, it's
Yeah.
it's going to be fascinating to see because, like you mentioned, the Orioles, the Reds, these players, they have a ton of prospect depth right now, a ton of prospect capital, and they're getting closer and closer to the majors, and they could capitalize on that for some high level type players. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see the Orioles in on some controllable pitcher that's going to be traded this year, like this offseason, and using some of that
Yeah.
prospect depth, like a Westberg or Joey Ortiz or Connor Norby or Kobe Mayo. I mean, they're not going to trade Jackson.
Even
They're
even
not.
Kauser and Kerstad, I think,
Yeah.
are on the table.
Yeah. I mean, and then
I
that's
think
on top of us talking about maybe Mullins or Santander could be on the move.
Hayes too. I mean,
He could be.
if I'm the Orioles, right, this is a bit of a wake up call, right? Your team is clearly you have the stars. You clearly have the stars capable of winning the AL East for a long time.
Hmm.
But you need to be better in the postseason. You need guys who can come in and step it up, right? You need an addition at the top of the lineup. You need an addition at the top of the rotation, right? Somebody that where Grayson isn't getting exposed, right? Where Kyle Bradish isn't your number one starter in the postseason. The Orioles have a really good opportunity here, to. I mean, this is a team that's won like 180 games in 2 years. I mean, this is a good group, but
Yeah.
they are getting just blistered by this Rangers team.
Well, if there's been a team too that would be fine going out to the market and paying a pitcher, Baltimore's
Might be
done
the
it.
Orioles.
The
Yeah,
Baltimore's
they
done
they
it.
can they've spent money.
Yeah.
It is time to spend money, right? This is a group that needs to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they're going to be aggressive. This we always kind of felt they were 1 year away. Um, we felt this year was kind of going to be that. Hey, let's see you take the step, and then next year, kind of when we go for it here. I mean, they overachieved what I think anybody thought they could do this year. Now it's time to capitalize on that. Um, even if it is an ALDS exit in 3 games here, like first of all, there's no shame in the Rangers beating you. This is a
Right.
really really good team. Um, the Orioles they're very good as well. They just
Oop.
aren't completely they weren't completely ready for this. And I feel like that's what
Right.
you're seeing. They were a group that was ready for 162, but the playoffs, it's like we were mentioning earlier, it's a different breed in the playoffs, and they're
Right.
a
And
year
this
away.
is experience.
Hmm.
This is experience. Adley Rutschman's getting playoff at bats.
Yep.
Gunnar Henderson's getting playoff at bats. Grayson Rodriguez just got a playoff start.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. DL Hall just got playoff experience. Kyle Bradish just got playoff experience. Here comes Gunnar again. He's 4 for 10 in this series with a homer. Like he's stepping up. They've got the stars. They've got the young, controlled talent. Now they're gonna have to do is build around them. They
And
they have to take some steps.
and they have another superstar that's probably going to make the majors next year.
Oh yeah, Jackson. Yeah.
Jackson, like if you guys have not seen what Jackson Holiday has done in his minor league career so far,
There's a lot of minor league talent right now. Like it's getting kind of wild. Um,
so
between Jackson Holiday, Dylan Cruz, Wyatt Langford, Skeens, like, and the Orioles score their first run. Great Gunner again.
it 4 levels this year, 4 different levels that he played in 2023, which was A ball, high A, low A, and triple A. His lowest WRC plus was 109, and that was in 18 games at triple A, where he still batted 267 and had almost 400 on base. Like, if you talk about where he spent most of his season, that's between high A and double A. High A, he hit 314 with a 452 on base, a 162 WRC plus, and then trip or double A, like that you don't expect much better, right? From what he did in high A, you go to double A, 338, 421, 507 with a 154 WRC plus. Like it, what Jackson's doing, and he's only 19. He's
Right.
going to make the majors, if not out of like. I think there's a chance he makes it out of spring training. If he goes there and does
There's
like,
there's benefits. There's benefits to it
well,
now.
look at Anthony Volpe. Like if he goes there and
Right.
has an Anthony Volpe type spring training, like Volpe was not supposed to be in the plan from day one this year. He was supposed to be a late, like mid-season to late season call up, get your feet wet, and 2024 is going to
Yep.
be your thing. He forced their hand, and I think you could see Jackson potentially do the same thing this next year.
Right. Yeah. He's certainly one of the ones capable of doing that. I think there's a lot of guys right now that are going to be forcing the hand at the minor league level. We're seeing just a meteoric rise in talent and development. I mean, you look at like Evan Carter for the Rangers, for example. I mean, we haven't talked about him, but I think for a little bit at the beginning of the game. But I mean, you see him out there, he looks like a 20-year-old kid because
Yeah,
he is. His arms are really skinny. He's wiry. He doesn't have like any build to him because he hasn't been working out as a major leaguer because he went from like high A to the majors this season. Like, you know, the Rangers have done a really good job of treating Evan Carter like a professional and
yeah,
saying, hey, you're up, you're playing, let's go, right? And, I think about Rojas for the Phillies too, right? Center fielder, he's up. They're trusting him. He's out there making plays in center field. He's improved their defense because Bryce Harper doesn't have to DH, right? Because they've got a center fielder. Bryce Harper can go to first base, and you can move the guys around. It's a it's a big improvement that they've got a good fielding center fielder right now in Philadelphia, and we haven't really talked about Philadelphia because the Braves were kind of on our docket at the beginning while Matt was here, as a team that was disappointing us early on. The reason for that is because Philadelphia has been really good in this playoffs, and they're trusting a young guy. We're seeing that at maybe the most amount that we've seen that in made at least since I've been watching baseball is the amount of young guys. How many rookies have the Dodgers thrown?
yeah.
Right, Corbin Carroll's leading the Diamondbacks. He's in his first year, right? Like, the Cubs brought up Pete Armstrong and didn't use him, right? But in my like watching Pete Armstrong and Alexander Canario sit the bench, that pissed me off. I wanted to see those young guys because those guys have that juice, that firepower that guys who played 150 games might not have at this point in the season. You know, we're seeing the Orioles are led by Grayson
Oh,
Rodriguez in the rotation and Adley Rutschman behind the plate, guys in their first and second year. The youth movement is really, really starting to rocket up. And I think it's only going to keep going, right? I mean, who was the biggest name this summer, right? Ellie De La Cruz
hmm
for the Reds. Dude played no games, hit the furthest cycle in like his third game or something, right? Like it's all about the young guys right now, and it's all about that energy. And that energy is so good in the post.
oh,
There's
Adley
Adley Rutschman.
blooping double over the
Is
first
that a
baseman.
foul ball? Are they calling it a foul ball?
No way.
Hadley don't believe it. He looks angry.
They
They're
did
challenging
call it
it. They
foul.
have to challenge it.
It's foul.
Oh, he just said foul.
Wow.
Let's see it.
That looked. Oh, I need a zoomed in shot of that one.
I think that's foul by a matter of inches,
Yeah.
centimeters. Very, very little room there. Good call by the umpire, I guess. I mean, he was right on it.
Well, that's the benefit of having the extra umpire down the line.
This is a
And
this is a really good at bat by Adley
yeah,
Rutschman, by the way.
yeah. Let's stick with this
He's
one real
fouled
quick.
off a bunch of 97 down the middle and up and in. The ball he hit down the line was up and in 95. Eovaldi can't get him to chase out of the zone, so he's pounding him in the zone. And Adley's very, very protective right now. He's choked up. It's the fifth inning. Eovaldi's in the third time through the order now, so I mean, I think this might be his last inning.
Yeah, I mean, him coming off the injury, 72 pitches, probably be right around that mark here. I think
We
that's time.
oh, Adley got the bat on the ball. Not
Nice play
enough
by
though.
Simeon.
Yeah, it's damn good out there.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're seeing also, in kind of in conjunction with that youth movement, is the disappearance of starting pitching.
Yeah.
where that third time through the order is statistically terrible
Yeah.
for pitchers right now. And Eovaldi's been dominant. He gave up a run, couple of hits, bunch of strikeouts. He's been very, very good, right? He's commanded the zone. He isn't walking anybody. In at least from and it, with a 6-1 lead, I mean, you'd probably consider just leave him in there, right? He'll get another inning. There's the Rangers are not going to keep him in this game.
No.
Just statistically, all it takes, right, is Eovaldi to give up like 2 hits before you get your bullpen going in the next inning, and then all of a sudden, Ryan O'Hearn hits a home run. Now it's 6-5, and we're back in the game, right? He won't be in the game this next inning. The starting pitcher analytically can't pitch that third time through. They just won't let him do it.
Well, he most likely won't be, but it's also Bruce Bochy. If there is a guy who's going to leave a guy in through that, it's going to be Bruce Bochy. But the thing also too is that Eovaldi's been battling injuries this year. Like it might just be like, hey, thanks for giving us 5 strong here. We have a rested kind of bullpen. Like we're just going to use those guys here to finish it out up 5, and don't even give the opportunity for that third time through anything. Like, but at the same time, which we kind of do see it in the playoffs a lot too, is if a pitcher's rolling, you just leave him in,
Yeah,
because the biggest motivation for a team is if you take somebody out who's rolling and they're just like, finally, like a fresh look, like somebody else, like we can see, like it was the story of Kevin Cash and Blake Snell a few years ago in the World Series. Like he was dominating LA in that game, and they pull him, and they immediately LA scores runs and wins that game, and it's like it's a, you can't do that sometimes, and the analytics
yeah,
today are the thing that's it's kind of pushing it that way. They've done a lot of good, but it's also for that it's taken some of the feel from the managers out of the game,
right.
especially in the
Because
playoffs.
yeah, and then on top of that, right, you've got an expanded roster with
Yeah.
additional pitchers, so you feel more comfortable in a playoffs, system, especially in a 6-1 game, right? Bochy doesn't have to use his top guys
No.
in the slightest right now. He can throw, probably Dane Dunning is who I assume gets the nod here.
I think Dane was game. He went in game 2 for a little while, so I don't know if
But
he'd
they
be
did. They
ready.
had an off day, right? Like
Yeah, but I
if
think
they're
he threw.
expecting,
I think he threw 2 or 3,
okay,
and as a,
well,
I
I
mean,
don't know who else their long guy is, but
he's more of a starter too, Dunning.
right.
So he wouldn't keep him on that kind of that path. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what they do here. Kyle Gibson's still in facing Adolis Garcia here in
Hmm.
the bottom of the 5th.
Rangers haven't gotten anything off of Tyler Wells and Kyle Gibson. They did all their
Settle it
damage
down.
against Dean Kramer.
I wonder how
So
many. This is the thing that I just noticed. Well, obviously, my starting pitching the first 2 games have not been great here, but I wonder when do we start seeing the opener in the playoffs?
soon, I think
Because it takes
the
if
one
you
thing
get
is we.
or go ahead.
I was gonna say this playoffs we've had a lot of teams with really really good starting pitching. It's like all the
Yeah,
really good starting pitching teams in the Dodgers. So
yeah. I mean, I just think you might see this. Hey, like take 1 or 2 down, and then we're going to bring in our starter at that point, and basically it's like the initial energy has subsided, and the initial shock and adrenaline is kind of down a little bit because you're already 2 innings into this game, or an inning or 2 into the game most likely, and it's like I think you're going to start seeing it more most likely, especially if these like pitchers keep getting blitzed in the first inning. These starting pitchers, I think
right.
you're going to see, because most of the time the starting pitchers use the first inning to kind of get settled in, see what's working, what's not working that day, da da da, and that's when you take advantage of it. If you usually get them past that second or third inning, they're really good usually after that point. I wonder
I
if you're
will
going to start
say
seeing the one guy.
if there's any team remaining that's gonna try that, to me it'd be the Braves.
Maybe.
That said, Brian Snickhurst maybe not the manager for that, but that's the team that could benefit the most from it going forward.
Yeah.
Where you get a different look in before you send Bryce Elder to the mound, then maybe you have an opportunity. The lineup they've prepared specifically to beat him.
Yeah.
Um, I will also say Kyle Gibson probably should have started this game. He was really good for the Orioles this year, and I understand not wanting to get the guy who gives up soft contact in there, but you needed a good start from somebody. The Rangers jumped all over Dean Kramer. They were walking, they're hitting everything. It's hindsight bias, but Kyle Gibson's at least a guy who can quiet down on the mound and get through a couple innings before anything bad happens. And even if you do give up that solo homer to Corey Seager, you don't let it snowball.
Yeah.
So, maybe a bit of a mistake here, but Gibson looks really settled down. He looks sharp. He's gotten a lot of soft contact, struck out some guys. He looks better than any other pitcher I've seen the Orioles throw in here.
Yeah. So far, the the ALC or Texas ALCS is going to be something for sure.
Yeah. Well, the Twins still have a shot.
I'm just
Obviously, they've got one more game, but
listen. I'm
they've
trying to
got.
jinx the Astros. Okay,
Hopefully we can.
but
But
obviously that Rangers, if it were to be Rangers Astros, like imagine the series that's going to be when the Rangers felt they had the division and they lost it on the last day due to a tiebreaker. Like, and now you have to face that team for a chance to go to the World Series. Like, I just think that series would be like a lot of fun.
it's very much going to be strength on strength.
Yeah.
Right. The Rangers are gonna be picking it up in terms of starting pitching. Obviously, we talked about Scherzer and maybe John Gray coming back. The Astros have a very potent offense. We're seeing that in this Twin series. In the Astros pitching staff very good against this Rangers strength of the offense. These are two very complete, very strong teams. So the question becomes, who has the advantage in that series should we get there? I mean, I would think the Astros. They've been in the ALCS, I think, every year. The
Since
last
17?
five or
Since
six. Like,
17? No.
did they
Yeah.
play the Red Sox in
I think
18 in
they
the ALCS?
I thought so. Or was that the DS? I think it
They might have
was
lost in the DS. When was the last time they lost in the DS? I don't even remember. The Astros are you pencil them to the World Series at this point. They've been there like every year.
I think it was that they lost to the Astros or to
The Astros lost the Astros.
the Astros lost to the Astros. 17 won the World Series, 18 lost in Championship Series, 19 lost in the World Series, lost in the Championship Series, lost in the World Series, and then won in the World Series in 2022.
So they haven't
So
been out of this championship series, which is
since
where
2017.
they're a win from going tomorrow
Yeah.
or tomorrow. It's either tomorrow or
No, it's not tomorrow.
Thursday.
They've had back to back, I think. Wait, is it tomorrow? It might be tomorrow, actually. I don't know. The AL schedule's so weird. The NL has like a day off in between each one. It is tomorrow. They play at 11 in the morning Pacific time
Yeah.
tomorrow. So, um, which another midday game in Minnesota. Which I wonder
They don't
if,
like
yeah, I don't
the
know
shadows.
if this game doesn't continue, like if this series doesn't continue after tonight, Baltimore and Texas is supposed to play at 4 Pacific. Is there a way you kind of finagle some stuff around here? Probably not. It's too late, huh? With the start
They're
time.
set. Nah. They wouldn't worry about it.
Oh,
Santander lined out to Corey Seager.
yeah.
And you have Aldi's back in there.
Yeah, he
Bruce
is.
Bochy did not worry about it. He's just leaving Eovaldi in there.
This is why Bruce Bochy's there, and we are here.
If hey, look, if that gets by Corey Seager, all of a sudden now there's some traffic on the bases, and now we're scared, right? You know,
but
it's
it didn't.
but it didn't.
But it
It
did.
I like letting Evaldi go. I think there needs to be some sort of incentive to keep your starting pitcher in the game longer. Um, I've talked about the DH, tying the DH to the starting pitcher role, enabling pinch hitters late in the games, right? Enabling for you to not want to do that opener strategy. Jeez. Inside splitter at 88. Mountcastle was convinced it was a hanging slider and went 3/4 of the way around. Yeah, no, I just. Oh, look at this. Starters with 6 innings pitched in the postseason. Team record is 29-8.
Yeah.
Like
When your
you
starter
have a
goes deep, you win.
you know, and you know, in my like that to me is maybe some confirmation bias, but you want to see you want starting pitching to have an impact in baseball, right? And at this point, right, we're getting to the set where it's managers are trying to actively remove the pitcher from the game. They're not allowing them to face the third time through. A lot of starting pitchers only have 2 pitches at this
Yeah.
point, so there's not a whole lot of deception. There's not a whole lot you can do differently the second time through, the third time through. And once the batters have seen you 2 or 3 times, it's a lot easier to hit you. We've also seen guys who have big velocity, and the big velocity is gone by pitch 70. Um, they're not able to go deep in the games, and so they're kind of protected by this, right? Another problem with the whole Blake Snell thing is he only went 5 innings like every single one of these starts. They pulled up. Jeff Passan was tweeting out like the stat. Oh, Blake Snell has allowed like 10 runs in the second half or something like that, and it or he's got like a 123 ERA. He's like 123 ERA in like 100 innings in the second half. Like he didn't pitch as much as guys who've had those dominant runs like Clayton Kershaw,
Well,
like the Jake Arrieta season, like
the problem
Justin
with
Verlander.
Snell in that aspect is because the walks are so high. He's pitching. He's at 100 pitches by 5 innings, anyways.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that's
So
where
how
that comes in.
he's going to win the Cy Young too, and it's like how dominant is that really, right? Like the team didn't see additional success from this. The he didn't allow runs, but it's not like he was putting his team in position to win a game. Like I would rather have this Eovaldi start than a 5 inning, 10 strikeout Blake Snell start.
I mean, if Eovaldi goes 6 and he strikes out 5 or 6, and it's like Snell went 5 and struck out 10, like what difference is there really if they both gave up
3 outs.
1 run? Yeah, but even nowadays, the 5 and dive pitcher is kind of what it is. Like we're kind of used to this 5 and dive pitcher, and even then, like if we're talking about since if we look back to the start of August, right? If let's use I'm looking at Blake Snell stats here. July 30th, he went 5 innings there. August 5th, he went 5 innings there. He went 6 or 7 the rest of the way from there.
Okay.
And he had what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think 12 of his starts were 5 innings or less. I mean, out of what he has, 32 games. So, I mean, you're talking about 22 games that he went more than 5 innings. Still went 6 innings most likely, because which this is really weird. Outside of his first 2 starts of the year, Blake Snell was not pulled in the middle of an inning. That's
There's
that's
something to
really
that.
weird.
Yeah.
Letting a guy
Well,
finish.
one
But I
thing
mean,
I
even then,
one
well,
one
180
thing
innings still. I mean, it's
yeah.
still in this day
He
and age, 180 innings is 200 or 220.
yeah. The one thing I will note there is one of the things David Ross is the worst at that I've seen is that guy cannot give a bullpen a clean inning. And it's pretty clear that Bob Melvin, you know, he knows Blake Snell could go another couple of batters in some of those 5 inning starts, but he would rather give the bullpen a clean inning. There's something to that because, you know, watching a guy come in and either struggle to throw strikes or immediately give up a hit, trying to get, warm coming out of the pen, runner on base, pressure's on. That there's something to that. We've
Yeah.
seen it with this Orioles team too. They've been pretty consistent there. They've been reluctant to pull the pitcher, which has kind of hurt them. They've given up some big innings. This, wow.
Yeah, Kyle Gibson back out there for the bottom of the sixth. I mean, they like you said earlier, he's done a really good job at keeping them at bay here, and Tyler Wells of quieting this Texas offense down to give Baltimore any hope to get back into this game. They haven't been able to produce offensively from it, but they've had the hope to be able to with their pitchers putting up zeros here. So the time's running out. Well, yeah, 9 outs remaining. The Orioles do.
9 outs remaining.
They gotta.
Oh
Well, that's
boy.
not gonna help.
Oh, Lau
Oh, did he
had
miss
a.
it?
Oh, he did get
Oh.
it. He's
Oh,
just as we talked about Kyle Gibson.
he got us there.
Oh,
He got us.
Daniel Lowe, first postseason home run and a home run with one of these.
I thought he did it like he missed it.
Yeah, I did too. I thought he did, but no, he was like, yeah, got the home run. I think he wanted it. This is Josh Lowe's brother,
Yeah.
Rays center fielder. Look, there it is. Yeah, he was super.
Oh, he
super
said
excited.
finally.
That's awesome.
That's what he said. Finally.
Wow. That's cool, man. Yeah, he wanted to get in on the parade like all of his teammates. They've been crushing it. He was 1 for 10. Josh Young, another young guy. Josh Young.
There is a better out there that has to hope for a Josh Jung homer right now. I saw it earlier. I should have sent it to the thing. He picked like it was. Oh no,
I don't think it's gonna go.
No.
Oh.
He had like Seager, Lowe, Jung, like Adolis to hit homers or something, and I think maybe Simeon to hit homers in this game. It was like 5 of them, and it was like I think it was like a $50 bet that would have won like $8,000 or something like that. Like that guy has to be
3 out of 5.
He has to be hoping for a Josh Jung homer or a Marcus Simeon homer.
3 out of 5 ain't bad.
Or do the cash out right now.
Cash that thing out.
But yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of talk about the awards and stuff through this offseason with the Cy Young and that, but it almost feels like it's Blake Snell's award.
Oh,
what a good play by Mountcastle there. So we'll
it does.
definitely...
It does. And I'd love to preach both my pick for the Cy Young preseason, which was Spencer Strider, and my team's candidate for the Cy Young and Justin Steele. But the way, neither of those guys were particularly sharp late in the season, and Blake Snell just kind of kept it up all year, and he doesn't have anything besides the walks that makes you go, well, he shouldn't win the Cy Young.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I'm just kind of resigned to it, I guess. He's not my favorite choice. I would rather see Strider or Steele win it. They're kind of bulldogs. Snell's more of a, nasty pitcher, I guess. He kind of a spinner, junk ball guy. Throws a lot of balls, gets a lot of chases. Strider, Steele, they'll go out there. They'll tell the manager, "Hey, screw you! I'm staying in the game."
Well, Kyle Gibson got out of that, but just giving up the 1 to Nate Lowe.
That one's bad though. A 6-run lead. It's not much more than a 5-run lead, but the 5-run lead can quickly dwindle. The 6-run lead's a little more stable, and they also only have 6 outs.
Here's the thing: if you get
I guess they still have 9.
If you get a grand slam in a 5 run game. It's 1 run game at that point. I
Right.
mean, it's easy at that point. But yeah, I mean, it hurts. But honestly, it just comes down to Baltimore just needs to find it offensively, anyways. We'll see if Eovaldi goes back out there for the seventh, or if they.
Well, would be real interesting if they send him back out there. I think that would maybe I would like that. I like to see
I,
starting
I
pitcher
just
get their opportunities. You know,
I just
it
think
doesn't
he's
make
rolling.
sense,
Well, I think
but
with the extra run now,
yeah,
like they're rolling. Like you save
let
that
Eovaldi go out
bullpen.
there.
Yeah, like just let him go.
Right.
Um,
I mean, next game isn't guaranteed. Well, this is an elimination game, right? So,
yeah,
any traffic, you pull him. Go ahead, get to the bullpen, start firing it up, have those guys warm. But you know, you want to go ahead and close this out here. You don't want any miracle comebacks happening if you're the Rangers because that's the quick way to get reverse swept is
yeah,
blow a 6 run lead in the late innings.
yeah. It's
So
it's that. Oh man, trying to look at. We don't really have anybody else in the saying anything right now, but some other stuff
how
to
rude.
really talk about here. Um, I don't want to keep talking about the off-season stuff too, because we're gonna have a lot of off-season to talk
Hmm.
about a lot of things there. But I've
It's
already kind
my
of
it's my preferred talking points right now because my team is in the off season, so I'm
listen.
already thinking about next season, thinking about
Give
the moves and stuff. But
give me till tomorrow, and I bet you I'm gonna be in the same mind
right.
frame as you. Um,
Well, you get to pre-order the Otani shirt jersey tomorrow, so we,
it
we'll we'll come back to that obviously.
the
But
the one
I
thing,
think everybody thinks Otani's favorite team landing spot is the Dodgers.
yeah, it's one of those things. There's always a saying of where there's smoke, there's fire. To me, there's such a thing as there's too much smoke that it doesn't make sense.
I
That
I
like
I, I can agree with that.
that it just feels like LA's going. I feel like they're going to be aggressive. As an LA fan, maybe that's my fandom there, but I feel like Otani's a guy they wanted out of high school. They wanted him when he came over here. They didn't get the full on opportunity because they didn't have the DH. Like now's their opportunity, right? But
Givaldi's back out there, by the way,
he is at 81 pitches. I like that. Um,
and just threw a disgusting splitter. Man, he is good. How did he only go for 2 years? This is crazy.
yeah,
I'll
um,
bet he's the most underrated free agent signing of last season for sure to the Rangers.
could be. Um, it just you never know. I mean, free agency's weird, and
It is.
LA didn't reset themselves this year on the luxury tax because of the whole Bauer contract still counting towards their luxury tax. Um, they're going. We've talked about the questions at pitching. Like right now, I was talking to one of my coworkers about this. If if you're the Dodgers right now and you're looking forward to 2024, right? Your starting rotation for 2024 at this moment is Walker Buehler, Bobby Miller, and then you're going to Ryan Pepio, Emmett Sheehan, and Michael Grove, who are all guys who bounced around and weren't trusted to be in the rotation full time this year. Your Gonsolin's out all year. May's out until at least midseason. You don't know what Kershaw's doing. If he's going to retire or if he's going to go to Texas. I mean, that's been a big rumor the last few years. Um, like, can you afford to spend all the money on Otani, knowing that
Right.
he's
Who's
not
not
going
going
to
to pitch
pitch,
next year?
knowing
Yeah.
he's not going to pitch this year, and then maybe have to sign another pitcher? Or are you picking up the $18 million option on Lance Lynn? Like, yeah, you know what I
Good.
mean? Like, they could, or you decline that and go out to the market and try and sign somebody for 18 or 20. But it's like,
Right.
are are they
Oh.
going are they going to do that knowing that Otani's not going to pitch next year? Uh,
8 more outs for the Rangers. Eovaldi, 97 on the black, struck out
yeah,
Austin Hayes looking.
disgusting. Um,
Gosh.
so that's why I'm not sure. Like everyone wants to say it. I'm one of the I'll believe it when I see it type things. Like
Yeah.
they're always aggressive. They will be aggressive with the top of the market type stuff, but it's just like you mentioned. Otani's going to be one of those weird ones you just don't know about. As Cedric Mullins flies out to left field, so
There's Evan Carter looking like a child.
yeah,
He's like if you took Zach Davies and pulled him so he's
don't
longer.
listen.
Looks like a baby, but
We don't
out there, but
ever
he's like long.
we don't ever
Um,
use that name here on this podcast.
dude,
Don't
both
ever.
our teams have been infected by the Zach Davy virus. All
Oh
right,
my
it just is
goodness.
what it is. You just have to deal with it.
Um, so,
Yeah,
but
the Dodgers situation is really interesting because the need is not a guy who can't pitch next year, right? Like Otani is obviously like someone who you can't worry about that
mhm,
for really. He You kind of ignore it. Yeah, he doesn't really fit, but who cares? It's Otani. Just make it work anyway, especially if he wants to come to your team. Um, but once you get to what the Dodgers are actually going to need, and it's becoming very clear from this series, is they need some complementary offensive pieces to Freddie and Mookie, right? Where they're kind of really sorely missing Trey Turner in that lineup in this postseason, right? It's kind of a
Corey
table
Seager.
setter for their top guys. Yeah, and Corey Seager too. You've seen that a lot of guys leave this Dodgers group. Will Smith is there. Will Smith is good, right? But he's a catcher, right? He's going to miss some games. He's not going to be there all the time. I just I question if the use of funds on Otani, who obviously would fit right into that, table, the guy who can complement Freddie and Mookie at the top of that order. He's obviously that guy, but if he can't pitch, is that the best way that the Dodgers can use those resources? And then if the Dodgers are either going to withdraw from the Otani sweepstakes, or let's say they just don't get him, who's their starting pitcher among this group, right? Is it Yamamoto, who's very unproven, though very, very good? There's another Japanese starting pitcher coming over. I can't remember what his name is. Um,
I know
he's
which one you're
30.
talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think
So
they'd
so
be in on
two
him
two
either.
good Japanese starting pitchers are coming over. And then you've got Nola, right? We've mentioned him. You've got Blake Snell. Blake Snell kind of makes me think Dodgers. Um,
The one that makes me feel Dodgers is Nola.
See, Nola's very a weird case, right? And
Yeah,
I think I'm excited to get into Nola. He's maybe my favorite
poor Sonny Gray.
option for. He's my favorite option for the Cubs too, in terms of just the free agent starting pitchers at that kind of top echelon group, because that's a guy who's had the big success and he's been pitching in this up front of this Phillies defense. Um, with Kyle Schwarber, with Nick Castellanos, guys who are not top quality defenders, right? You get him in front of a team with really good defense, the Dodgers, the Cubs, there's other teams too, right? The Cardinals, they usually play good defense. You know, the Nola free agent case is going to be really, really interesting. What does he get? Does he get the Robbie Ray deal? Does he get more than Robbie Ray? Because you've seen a ceiling that's very, very high, but also this year he was not that good. Gave up a lot of home runs. The defense doesn't matter when they hit the ball over the out of the park. You know, the Dodgers are a team that they just went and got Lance Lynn, and I kind of we thought, well, Lance Lynn might be able to
Mhm.
keep the ball in the ballpark. Hadn't been able to do it with the Dodgers. So you know how much of the home run issue can you fix for Aaron Nola, right? He'll be a very interesting case. I think he'll have a lot of suitors. Um, that there's a lot of teams that are going to miss out on Otani that are going to be going, well, we need to get some pitching this year, and the Dodgers are going to be one of those teams. Yeah, I'm real interested in whether Aaron Nola gets that big money.
I think he gets
Um,
close to Robbie Ray, if not slightly above it.
I'm thinking 5 for
Uh,
125 is kind of the ceiling for the
which
for the Nola contract,
is
and then
about,
who's paying that? Oh
oh
man, and Eovaldi gets Westberg on the 11th pitch.
yeah. Um, I mean, there'll be a lot of people out there that I think a lot of teams that would be out there pit for Nola at that level, because to me, I think Nola is the top starting pitcher on the market. I know Snell's coming off the Cy Young, but I think Nola's the guy.
Well, I think Yamamoto's the top starting pitcher on the market.
Well,
It's just that his market is a little different.
yeah, the problem with Yamamoto is you just
You got
he's been
posting fee.
well posting fee, but you
It's
just
going to
don't
cost 200
know.
million.
Well, you just don't know how it's going to translate. That's the one thing you have to watch for. Like because first of all,
Yeah.
the the pitching the pitching rotation, the way they do it, there's the extra day that they pitch over there. They pitch with a little bit smaller baseball. Like
Oh yeah, their balls are super dead. They had a league wide ERA below
yeah,
3 this
so
year.
like it's just you're gonna be facing a lot better hitter over here.
Yeah.
Like I just think the unknown of Yamamoto, like he's gonna be very very good, I think. But I just think with people looking at Aaron Nola, seeing, hey, we know that this is already the upside that he can get to, and he's just been dealing with a
Mhm.
bad defense, to where like, okay, Yamamoto, like I think Yamamoto is going to be like right behind Nola, and like right, I think he's going to be kind of right there with Snell, right a little bit behind Nola. Just to me, I think Nola, because he has the proven track record here before, and you know the clear signs of what the issues are for his
Mhm.
numbers, it just makes sense of why it would be to that level. But
The I guess the key difference for me is the age. Yamamoto's 25,
yeah,
right?
that's gonna be
He's
a big
he's
thing. Yeah,
not he's not just a this year signing, and we just saw Kodai Senga come over and be successful. He
yeah,
he maybe wasn't the ace type, but he was also not like quite as much of a dominant force that Yamamoto has been in Japan. Um, you know, Yamamoto is also going to have a much more exorbitant price tag due to the posting fee, due to being 25,
yeah.
right, and
What's he gonna
having
sign
5 years on the entirety of the. He's got 5 years in the entirety of the free agent class, right? Like
I wonder what he's gonna sign
Yamamoto's,
for. Like, is he gonna sign for a years
it's
wise?
gonna be 200 million.
I'm
Oh,
talking
like
about
eight,
years.
8 to 10
Yeah, like does he sign
up
for
there.
8? He's gonna sign for 8 at least, right?
He'll have a long one with a opt out after 4, probably 3 or 4.
Hit back at like 30,
Right.
like
That
29 or
that would be
30.
my expectation. But you're still making a long term play in term
What is
if you're
that?
making a Yamamoto play, right? He's a guy who maybe his biggest impact is not immediate, but we've seen guys come out that have been from Japan that have been really good of late. I'm not always 100% convinced in those guys, but between Senga, Tanaka, Yu Darvish, Shohei, they have been pretty good of late. It's not so many Daisuke Matsuzakas anymore. You have all just got a standing O.
Yeah, it's Yamamoto's gonna be an interesting one. It's gonna be
He'll
a
he'll
really
be
big interesting one.
he'll be the biggest free agent contract for a pure starting pitcher rather easily. Um,
Probably
how much?
in guaranteed
Yeah,
money most likely. I don't know
how
about
much he
AAV.
clears? How much he clears? Yeah, in total money.
Yeah,
How much he clears Nola and Snell and you know the rest of those guys by is the big question mark. It's also who's involved, right? Typically, we see those guys go towards the West Coast, but last year we saw Kodai Senga head straight for New York. So who's interested in that, right? I mean, there's no team where a 25-year-old starting pitcher at the top of your rotation doesn't make sense.
could very well be the
Even
Mets.
if you're, it's like even if you're a bad team, right? A Mets, if you're a Nationals, if you're anybody, it makes sense to grab a 25-year-old starting pitcher because by the time you're good again, presuming all your prospects pan out, or you're able to make the trades, or you're able to extend, sign the players in free agency, he's good. He's still there. He's still good. He's still got that. He can work out the kinks the first year. So, his free agents market is 30 teams.
Yeah, could be. As
Right.
we get DL Hall into the game,
Yep.
pitching against Mitch Garver here. One of the more fun guys. Hall's
Yep.
going to be a one of the more interesting stories, as if they're going to try and push him to the rotation, or if
Are
they're
they?
going. I said if they're going to, or if they kind of use him into the bullpen type role of maybe becoming a Zach Britton.
I'm waiting for the DL Hall, like Josh Hader season. You know, like
Josh
I think
Hader,
it's
Zach
coming.
Britton.
Josh
Yeah,
Josh Hader is a former Oriole.
So
Um,
is Zach Britton.
well, yeah, Britton was very much a, by the time he was elite, he had been a reliever for a few years. Um, you know, I'm thinking of like Wade Davis, some of those guys that have gone from being kind of a mediocre
98 right
starter
down the
to a
middle to
quality
Adolis.
reliever. Yeah, and Hall has some very very filthy stuff.
Yeah.
So the frustrating and the difficult part for Hall is both going to be that injury history, which is not good at the minor league level, but it's also going to be that control. He's got a
Yeah.
very herky jerky delivery, and definitely causes him to be inconsistent at times with his velocity, with his location, with his command. So he's got that high end velocity, but he's one of those guys who's going to be infuriating if he's in your bullpen
Just
because
blew
he'll do
98.
that. He'll do that. 98 on the corner. Adolis has no chance, and then he'll walk the next five guys. So
Yeah.
I think he'll end up being a very successful reliever. He's got that pedigree, that stuff
Yeah,
that can make it work.
I think they'll still try and push him to be a starter at first because always knowing that you can just go to the bullpen and tame it down.
Really, you want to ramp it up in the
Well,
bullpen. You got to
yeah,
tame it down to be a starter. See what Evan Carter can do
lefty
against
lefty.
DL Hall. Lefty lefty. I swear, Evan Carter's got to be like 180 pounds. Dude is rail thin.
Oh my goodness.
DL Hall threw
Those-
that's got to be a sweeper, right? It's the left right slider.
It almost looked like a dang cutter.
Yeah, 87 miles an hour. Looked like he was going to throw it behind Evan Carter, and it ratcheted right up to the top left corner of the zone. Unhittable pitch. There's no way Evan Carter could have touched that.
I follows it up by 97 up and in next to his face.
Yeah. The thing about, I hit lefty. The left-handed pitchers in high school were never good enough to do this, and it would have been really annoying to face that. 97 at the top of the zone, and then a slider that actually breaks because they always hit me. Oh, there it is again.
At the knees this time.
He's yeah. At
Now
least my own personal experience, they always get hit by those.
this is
They
when
start them out at
Hall.
your hip and then doesn't spin.
This is when Hall's gonna start it in like the middle of the zone. It's gonna end in the other batter's box, and Carter's absolutely gonna be like swinging through it. Oh, just 96 inside.
I'm telling you, man, Evan Carter's he's got one of those like factors. I don't even know how would you even describe it. He's on he doesn't rattle.
Yeah, unfazed.
Unfazed. NLDS. We're up facing one of the nastier pitchers in the league. Just I don't care.
Oh,
There it is. Took outside slider. Didn't
he,
care. Spat
he
on it.
he thought about it.
3-2. Oh yeah. This 21 years old.
Yeah.
It was very impressive. Fouled it off. I mean, just a great at bat. A professional at bat. He took some tough pitches, right? He took those sliders that were cutting from his hip onto the plate. Now he's got to swing at those pitches because he knows that they're strikes. But he was able to take some of those high fastballs. This is one of those plate approaches. You watch an at bat like this, and he
Oh,
strikes out. He strikes out on I guess that's a changeup at 86. First time that pitch got broken out, it looked right. It was right on the corner. It's a good plate appearance. I mean, you can go back and you can be proud of that one.
yeah. Rangers got 6 more outs, or Baltimore. Well, I guess technically both.
Yeah, six
Rangers
more
get
outs
to close
for
it
the
out.
best team in the American League. 101 win Baltimore Orioles. The AL East will be completely eliminated.
Yeah.
There's the cat. Hi, cat.
Yeah.
She wants to watch baseball. baseball.
Man, what's some of the stuff that we wanted to hit on a little bit later that we never got to really cover during the year, the week to weeks. That was some stuff that we had kind of that we wanted to save, give a little bit more time to.
I don't know.
I don't know. I should probably write this down, keep it somewhere.
Mhm.
I don't. I was, we'll find it later. But I guess one thing we can talk about, because I don't know if it'll come up. I guess it would if he signed somewhere. But um, yeah, you mentioned we were talking about the Reds earlier, and the fact that I think Votto like actually kind of came out and said like he wants to play, and that he's not sure if the Reds want him back. It's a real possibility that he could go somewhere else um, for like a one-off season or something like that. That would be incredibly, incredibly weird.
It would be.
Like,
It'd be Frank Thomas, the Oakland A.
yeah,
Weird. Um,
or Clayton
you
Kershaw,
know,
the
it.
Texas Rangers, if that happens.
You know, I wouldn't be shocked to see Votto come back. He's the kind of guy who, we say plate approach doesn't really age, right? That's a guy who can command the zone no matter what what age he is. But he was able to kind of get a standing O in Cincinnati and retire.
Hmm.
He would theoretically retire a Red. He's at 40. He's gotten his money. I have a difficult time believing that him coming back wouldn't be like Ken Griffey Jr. coming back to the Mariners in 2009
Yeah,
when he was really awful
I
and
just,
ended up like unceremoniously retiring on the down low. Like you don't want that, right? Like Joey Votto's a legend. He's gonna go in the Hall of Fame. Like
just think he's having so much fun still, and the Reds are just getting to that point where they have a chance to be good
I,
again.
my theory would be it's the Reds or it's retirement,
Yeah,
right? Like I don't for and if he retires, the Reds ought to just put him right in the booth, like straight
no,
in the booth. Like come on, up in the booth, your job.
yeah.
Like color man,
Joey
you're
Votto
a
should
Reds legend. Keep you around,
he
Red for
needs to get
life. Like
hired for like every national broadcast. I don't care
yeah,
which one
I
it
may
is.
be I may be biased, but I like Joey Votto in the booth a hell of a lot more than Adam Wainwright.
Wainwright,
Wainwright's better than John Smoltz, though. I will say that.
John Smoltz is bad. Wainwright he's not bad. He's better than AJ Przynski. I'll give you that too.
Krasinski's also bad. I don't like him
Um,
either. You know,
but I'm
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 spoiled. Cubs have the best color guy. Love Jim DeSace,
I'm
but
completely convinced that like um I mean it could be the bias here too watching the game, but man, the TBS broadcasts of Bob Costas and Ron Darling that have
that's
been
not
given
bias.
the Dodgers Diamondback series is by far the worst broadcasting duo I have ever come across.
What I know you're not a Joe Buck guy,
No.
but I'm a big Joe Buck guy. I like Joe Buck in baseball. Bob
See
Costas is awful,
see
an awful replacement. I would rather have Joe Buck every time.
I don't like Joe Buck in baseball. I like him for
No,
football. He's fine. But for baseball I don't like him.
I, the
I
thing about the thing about this is that the Ron Darling is horrible.
yeah.
Joe Buck's not good. The big problem with national broadcasters, and you see it with Boog Sciambi, he's in some of these. You see it with Joe Davis, right? They're plucking a few guys who are, with teams. My biggest issue is that now the team broadcasts also feel they need to be like national broadcasts. I don't want a national broadcast on my everyday game, but then when we get to these national games and we have color guys like John Smoltz and Ron Darling, like now the national broadcasts are already ones you don't want to watch anyway
Yeah.
because the commentating is these guys who've been around for years. Gunnar Henderson just hit a single on 101 mile an hour, roll his Chapman fastball.
Yeah.
It's these guys who've been around for years. They're not in touch with the game. They're I would, this is where Adam Wainwright's better. Joey Votto's better, right? Like you need guys who've been playing in the last, in the Statcast era, right? Like, these commentators like Bob Costas who have, you know, outstayed their welcome.
Yeah.
They're there on name alone. That's my problem with a lot of these playoff broadcasts. It's not good production. It's not a this is the games that most people are watching, and you've got these kind of dinosaurs that are talking bad about the game.
Yeah. See,
That it's being played, complaining about stuff, and it's not a good look. And it hasn't been a good look for years. I mean, Smoltz
yeah.
has been around for years, and he is just so bad.
See, as the Dodger fan listening to Joe Davis when he does the LA broadcasts, he does it in a way that it's very much not a national
Yeah,
broadcast. And he does it with
Chiang,
Oral. He does it with Oral Hershiser, who like
who's
most people would also think like, hey, he's a dinosaur. He doesn't know like Oral Hershiser is like I don't know how to explain it, but for somebody who shouldn't be in touch with the game, like he's in
he is.
touch with the game a very very good amount. But yeah, the Schmaltz, the Darlings, the just I mean these people,
Pierzynski.
Przinski, Jeff Francoeur, like
Yeah.
these guys are not they're not
Well,
good. And then we have the old heads of hey Bob Costas and um, Ron Darling and just more people that just they've been around for so long and they're so bad. Like they're even badder than their own TV broadcasts. Like I,
mhm,
I obviously I have MLB TV and I watch a bunch of the games. Like it doesn't matter if there's a Mets game going on. I will never turn on the Mets broadcast because Ron Darling's on it. Like it is just that bad. Like I would rather listen to I don't even know the Nationals broadcast. But it's like
the Nationals did get rid of the one bad guy, Santangelo or whatever. That dude
yeah.
stunk. I hated that guy.
Well, and it was like the
Um,
long time the Angels one was
yeah,
terrible too. It's just
White Sox were bad for a long time.
yeah,
Now
there's
they've
certain
gotten
ones.
Benetti, and he's really good.
Yeah, there's just
And Steve Stone isn't horrible. But he's super homer.
yeah,
But I would, if I'm a White Sox fan, I would much prefer a Steve Stone,
yeah.
Jason Benetti, or Steve Stone, Len Casper broadcast, because that's very clearly going to be pro my team. And I don't need a national broadcast on everyday games. And then when you get to this should be the top guys,
Carl
right? This
Ravitch is
should be the
another one of the
guys
old
who are,
people.
yeah, and Ravitch at least has some. He doesn't have the same level of ire, I think, but yeah, I mean he's been around forever. The big issue for me is going to be like that the color guys that maybe deserve an opportunity on this stage are never going to get that opportunity.
Yeah,
You're
there's
not going to
Chapman
see
walk somebody.
you know, those Santander too.
2 on now. I mean, there's still 2 outs, but
Like I would say most of the, you know, yeah, I would say maybe Oral Hershiser even is probably one of the guys who probably deserves an opportunity on these types of national broadcasts.
he doesn't like to travel. He likes to stay in
Yeah,
LA, so that's part of it. But um, man, they have some really really solid people. I mean, I wouldn't even like Brian Anderson. I think he does the TBS.
yeah,
I
he's
wouldn't
good.
mind
He's
him.
he's the Braves guy, right?
Brewers.
No, who's
Brian
the
Anderson.
Braves guy then? I swear Brian
Uh,
Anderson was the Braves announcer. Brian Anderson also played for the Brewers this year.
no, that
It's a
that's
different
why.
guy.
No, he's the Brewers broadcaster. I'm pretty sure because I just saw an interview with him the other day that said that he'll keep calling Brewers games as long as they want him. Brian Anderson, sports commentator. Yeah, I'll never leave the Brewers as long as they want me. So
Yeah,
he calls the Brewers. He's calling the
he's
Braves
good. He's
series
good.
right now.
Okay,
But yeah, he's the Brewers guy. He's really really
he's
good.
been good. Yeah.
Um,
There are
too.
good national guys, right?
Yeah,
There's good guys that you can go out and get right now, and
I
I
think it's all about pairing the color commentator up the
mhm.
right way. Like Joe Davis, I think does a fantastic job, and maybe that's my homerism coming in, but I really love his baseball calls. I just wish he was with somebody better as a color analyst than John Smoltz.
Right.
Like,
I think Smoltz drags Davis down because oftentimes the color guy
yeah.
carries the broadcast. The play-by-play guy needs to provide that, you know, the what's going on, you know, the
Hmm.
steady discussion, then initiating the dialogue for the color guy to come in and declare what's happening. It's a, you know, it's one of those things that I don't love Boog Shambi. I feel like he just does the same thing every time, right?
Yeah.
He's very much a one note guy, kind of always a little bit of energy, but not really, you know, if the other team homers or if his team homers, he's just kind of like the
There's a
same
homer.
call, the show call, right? Like I don't feel dejected, right, when you hear him call a home run, right? Even if it's against the team, right? He doesn't seem to be dejected. You know, I look at, the Cubs have good color
Mm,
guys on the radio. They got, Pat Hughes is really good, but again, Pat Hughes isn't gonna call a national broadcast.
4 pitch
Um,
walk for was
yeah,
that
Chapman just
Mountcastle?
loaded up the bases here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bases loaded, 2 outs in the top of the eighth for Baltimore. I mean, this
I
is
don't know
kind of what we were talking about. If they get a
that
grand slam here, it's still a 2-run game.
that home run by Lowe is pretty huge. Bochy's
Oh,
gonna pull Chapman.
yeah, he is. Chapman just doesn't look like he has the command tonight. It's one of those
Yeah,
nights. He's kind of off there, but yeah, the
they're gonna bring in Leclerc.
the national broadcasts are they've been a problem for a long time.
Right.
Like
Like as far back as the Cubs World Series, they've been a problem.
the ESPN like the ESPN group is probably the worst. They have the most
A
games
Rod.
that you have to get like pushed on you. And like I will say there's one thing too. Like there's certain people that are very good team broadcasters that are not good national broadcasters
Hmm.
or even color commentators. Like Jessica Mendoza on ESPN makes me want to mute the TV or just turn the TV off. She became a Dodgers like color commentator last year, I think. She's fantastic as a single team
Right.
broadcaster. She brings a lot of insight to that. I don't know what about it is when she goes to ESPN that it does not
I'm guessing
translate.
ESPN requires a certain amount of scripting,
Maybe.
and you have to bring up these questions and
Um,
you have to have these interviews because the biggest, and we're just kind of talking about, we're waxing poetic about baseball broadcasts, right? I hate these damn like in-game interviews with the
yeah,
parents of the player or something. Like, show me the game. Like, the seasons are already, you know,
I get
short
they're
enough,
I
but
get they're
we're
just trying to fill
busy.
time. I mean, it's 162
There's
games. They're just trying to fill
they
some
put a
stuff.
pitch clock in. There's no downtime anymore. Like,
Well, yeah,
the
but
pitches are going as soon as he gets the ball back. Like,
yeah, and
yeah,
then
I just
we get the weird conversations between the broadcasters sometimes about like what color paint they would like to use on I don't know, like some weird stuff, you know. It's just like I get like sometimes, but the one that I hate is the mid game interviews in the dugout with the players because you can tell like most of them are just like disinterested most of the time anyways.
yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
will say
And if you're doing it with your team broadcast, right,
yeah,
you
those
get
are
a little
different.
more playful, a
Yeah.
little more playful interview.
Yeah, the on the national
You
I'm
know,
talking about specifically on the
you're
national
right.
broadcast. Because I've seen
And that's
plenty
just the
of ones
difference.
the plenty of you're around the team every day. You're around the players every day.
Mhm.
You're allowed, you have those relationships, you have the behind the scenes, you have conversations. You know more than you do with the national broadcast people. And it's
Mhm.
just, you know,
I,
I
I
don't I don't know
wonder
what the
if,
clear answer is, but
yeah. Well, the clear answer is to get, some of these guys out. Don't put Bob Costas in the booth. That's the clear answer, right? Don't put John Smoltz in the World Series booth. Like, you got to get guys who are cerebral about this stuff, and
yeah, like
who are able to kind of rationalize the game
what are
for the
even
fan
the
who is tuning in just for the playoffs.
yeah, like what are even the contracts for TBS playoff games? Like where is that even
I don't know.
that's not a normal broadcast throughout the year. It's not
Right.
like Fox who has their guys of Davis and Smoltz set,
Right.
or
Well, yeah, and Fox broadcasts the Saturday game, right? ESPN broadcasts the Sunday night game. Like,
Hmm.
even though those games aren't always the best, like commentated, that is a team that is always working on baseball games.
Hmm.
So you're at least going to get a good product, right? We've seen some issues with like the Apple broadcasts. Those looked horrible for a long time. Like
I think they
the Apple
went.
Plus games.
Yeah,
I think they've gotten better, but they were
they've
bad at the beginning.
yeah, because they tried to like throw a bunch of different announcers at it. I think now they've set to like two different crews that do it. Um,
Yeah, and it took some time.
if I'm not mistaken, they have, or maybe they have one play-by-play guy, and then they have like their color commentator that kind of rotates. But yeah, I just you got to find something to get people who are more able to understand today's game and the stuff behind it in these broadcasts.
Oh, don't
Jose the,
call it.
Jose the clerk is at 3-2, 2 outs, bases loaded here with
Aaron Hicks.
against Aaron
The
Hicks.
season, the Baltimore season essentially comes down to Aaron Hicks.
Yeah,
Not my
which
preferred bat at the plate, but he's worked it full. Fouled it
fouled
away.
it off. A big at bat right here.
This is for the series. Well, this is for elimination, I would say. I don't think you're picking up 6 runs with nobody on base in the ninth inning.
Yeah, you need something here. Oh, he
Ground
grounded
ball.
out.
The Orioles
Wow.
get nothing. The Rangers are 1 out or 1 inning away from finishing off the Orioles. 100-win Orioles.
Yep. So now that we've rambled on about broadcasts, just trying to fill some time here.
I mean, and the broadcasts are a good point of contention because
Yeah.
we're looking at like sports in general are in a, a kind of a double-edged sword place where you've got more people than ever tuning into sports
Yeah.
and having accessibility to sports at any time, right? With the streaming and with the more accessible, the more options. There's sports on all the time. At the same time, the ratings for a lot of sporting events are down.
Right. Which
And you need to be putting out your best product at the most important times.
yeah.
And I always because we're racing fans too. So I mean I would compare this to kind of NASCAR. The Daytona 500 is often one of the worst broadcasts of the season
Oh,
because the commercials are just explode. They're in your face. It's horrible. And then you look at these baseball like broadcasts. I mean, the biggest baseball games of the season, and you're putting like guys who are in there talking about how the game isn't as these guys are doing it like I used to do it. And you're never going to grow fans from that. You're never going to grow NASCAR fans from races full of commercials. Like you gotta have some kind of revolutionary. We're going to be bringing up these different sponsor segments and whatnot, but you're always going to be seeing the race no matter what. The only time we go to full screen commercials is like the caution flags and the red flags and stuff. Like if you can make the broadcast of your most important races or your most important games, the Super Bowl, for example, is like the one that does this well. The commercials are interesting to watch. The game itself is, it's almost like an entertainment business
yeah.
because of all the prestige and the pomp and circumstance surrounding it. The NFL has been able to grow so much in that the Super Bowl is almost its own entity.
Yeah. Well, and
But the
one
MLB playoffs and the World Series are not that.
well, and one thing the NFL has done really well is bring people in to the broadcasts that people relate to or that they know the game, right? Like
Yep.
we have Greg Olson in there who's done a really
Yep.
good job. We have Tony Romo, which a lot of people don't like Tony Romo, but
I love Tony Romo.
but what he does on there, telling you what the defense is doing before they ever do it, like you have that. Like you're gonna have Tom Brady here in the next year or two,
Hmm.
which I think as much as
Yeah, and
not being a Tom Brady fan, I think he's going to be good as a
he's going to
broadcaster.
be good as a broadcaster. Of
Um,
course he is.
but you have the ability of you have the people that connect back to the game that were right there, and they do well put together analysis of
Hmm.
the game.
You Yeah, and you also have like Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, the Manning cast. You have Pat
Which,
McAfee,
oh,
right? Different personalities who've come about due to sports because they are cerebral in their analysis, but they
mhm,
also have played recently enough that they understand what is going on
yeah.
with the current product that we're watching, and they are able to relate that to us from their perspective of having played on the field, with these players.
See, I think the problem with baseball and broadcasting, especially to the single team broadcasts, are when players get done, they're done with the grind of
Mhm.
162 or even like 80 doing just home games or something like that. Like they have players that like they don't want to go and do this all the time. Oh, Jonah, I'm almost hit that ball out. Um,
That one guy had Jonah Heim
I don't know. I don't know.
on the on the
I don't
thing.
know. But it's just it's something that baseball's lacked to do is try and you get you get the former players in the studio. That's what they do. They make them
Right.
studio analysts. I mean, even right now, like you see, it's what the Fox one is: Frank Thomas, A Rod, David Ortiz, Jeter.
It's Ortiz, Jeter, and Arod.
So we're so Frank Thomas isn't even on it right now. He was last year.
Nope.
Um, but yeah, it's like you get them as studio analysts, so they're there. ESPN really ESPN doesn't even care about baseball. I don't know why they have Sunday Night Baseball. They don't even do
Yeah.
segments on ESPN about it half the time. Like MLB Network, you find some former players who do like studio stuff.
DeRosa and Carlos
DeRosa,
Pena,
Pena, Kevin Millar's a great one too.
Millar.
Um, you get that, but the ability to make them interested in calling games, of being a color commentator, it's rare that you find good players that want to go do that,
Hmm.
um, and
Right.
that can do it well. I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird. I don't know why. That's why I feel like we get in the stuck at this rotation of the same old names, just floating
Yep.
between all these different teams. It's just like, all right, well, we're not happy here, or they're not happy with that, so we'll just go somewhere and kind of keep this rotation going.
And you have some guys, and it's not just going to be, I just have the most experience with these guys, but Jim Deshaies for the Cubs, and then Ron Coomer on Cubs radio. Neither of them. Ron Coomer played for the Cubs for like 2 years, and Jim Deshaies never played for the Cubs.
Mhm.
Jim Deshaies at this point is full on Cubs homer. I mean, he was getting blasted for saying Acuna shouldn't have, gotten a video montage for stealing 70 bases, right? Like, and I'm like, dude, that's fine. Not only are you broadcasting for the Cubs, but he probably should have they should have done it after the inning, and or at least called a pitch clock strike on the next batter, which wouldn't have mattered anyway, right? So whatever. But you've got guys like that. Those guys aren't interested in doing these national
Mm-mm.
broadcasts. Those guys are, they're honing their craft, but they've been doing it. I mean, Deshays has been around since I've been like 10 years now for the Cubs. I mean, it's the same color guy for 10 years. We've gone through, two play-by-play analysts. Now they do a rotation,
Yeah.
right? And then we get like Joe Girardi in the booth, and he is horrible. It just goes to show how good Deshays is, and it's like if you brought Jim Deshays to a national broadcast and sat him in there instead of John Smoltz next to Joe Davis, you'd have a spectacular broadcast. And that's not the only guy. There's plenty of those types of former players who weren't really stars who've taken a very big like to broadcasting that we could have in the booth instead of John Smoltz.
Yeah.
And we get John Smoltz in the World Series, and it's horrible every time.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to get a Wainwright here soon, or maybe even a Votto in the next 2 or 3 years to be in
Yeah,
the because
it,
Wainwright's signed with Fox already. So if he
yeah.
becomes one of the
Wainwright might be that guy.
national broadcast guys.
I can already tell I'm gonna hate Wainwright, but whatever. He'll at least not be dumb, right? He won't be well back in my day because his day is recent,
Yeah.
and that's
Yep.
absurd. So
All right. So the Orioles are making a pitching change here. They took DL
took Hall
Hall
out,
out.
making this game longer.
Yeah,
Even though it's already over.
just a little bit longer for us,
We're almost done.
which we totally enjoy. Um, we'll have to figure out through the next couple days when we're going to do a recording episode.
I don't know if I can do anything this weekend.
We'll have to see
So
when do the
might have to be you and Matt.
NLDS DS. Yeah, AL starts on Sunday. That would suck. So it leads all the way up through it.
Yeah, there's no off between there
There's no off like
unless
any of these days.
unless the NL wraps up before.
Yeah, like yeah. If all these series go through it, the next off day is like October 25th or something like that. But the
Have
NL
they even
could.
used Yenny or Cano in this series? I think this might be the first
I
time.
don't think so. But
That stinks, man. We talked about the Orioles' kind of advantage in the bullpen, but they never even got to use the advantage in the bullpen.
yeah, just got taken over right away.
Yeah, blown out. It's tough. It's Josh Jung. I love Josh Jung's stance. Him and his brother have the funkiest like hand placement in their stance. Because Jung does it up here like this.
Mm-hmm.
His brother does it like this. So he's got his hands turned like away from it. So he starts the bat here
Almost like
and
how
swings
Kipnis
through.
used to.
Yeah. And Josh Jung has like this like airplane mode with his elbows.
And he gets
Infield
on.
single. Gunner got moved over to third base. He's been playing a lot of shortstop. So I
I
was
feel
not
like
able to make that play.
third base is probably going to be where he's at.
Yeah, once Jackson comes up, yeah.
Yeah.
He's certainly athletic enough to get to being a good third baseman, but he's been playing shortstop all year. So
And I also
wouldn't
wonder.
expect him to be great there immediately.
I also wonder if he at some point maybe gets moved to second once you get like Kobe Mayo or somebody up that is a little bit bigger that has to play the third base
Right.
type role. But said they have a lot of people, so they'll have to figure it out.
They, the Orioles are a wealth of position player prospects.
That they
Remember, they
are.
also drafted a position player. They drafted crap. What was that guy's name? Center fielder from Vanderbilt, Enrique Bradley, maybe Enrique
Uh,
Bradford,
Bradfield, I think.
Bradfield,
I
maybe.
think it's
That doesn't sound right.
Enrique Bradfield
It's,
Jr.
yeah, but yeah, that they have just been very very consistent with uh, drafting those position players with high ceilings wherever they fall, um,
Oh, the
and then picking up pitching later on.
heading to the ninth inning here.
Yep,
We
that won't
got
last.
Leclerc will probably be back out there, I would assume,
hmm
unless they bring in Will Smith, which they could do.
They have Barlow? No,
No,
no. They have Chapman, Sabors
which
thrown
Spores
in there
isn't.
too.
He's not as good.
Yeah, they might just leave Leclerc in there,
They
finish it
they
off.
might.
One
So
more inning, three more outs for the Baltimore Orioles. Unfortunate, a eulogy for their season is they they were good.
they
They were
were.
better than anybody thought they were going to be. I think this
Yep.
season with 99 wins, they had really really consistent offense, and some surprising pitching performances, but ultimately were kind of overwhelmed in their first playoff run in 7 years.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of for Baltimore this year with the season that they had and then into the playoffs here. Like, I think this just, if anything, I think this shows the Baltimore Brash where they're missing and what they need to do to be more aggressive um, this
Yeah.
offseason to make some moves and to realize that they're a legit contender now to be in play for good high level players. Um, and I think you're going to see that from Baltimore. I think they will be in
Yeah.
on high level on both sides. I think on the free agent market potentially, and even on the trade market.
Yeah.
More so
The,
probably on the trade market, but
there's a lot that you like where where Baltimore's at, and we talked about a lot of those young guys. Obviously, they have some holes to fill. I think in some places that they can really improve. But pitching is obviously the primary target, I think, for this Baltimore team, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's what let them down. This offense has scored a lot harder to score when you're down runs, right? The confidence just isn't there. You know the they were not in position to jump all over anybody
yeah,
this playoffs, right? The Rangers were out in front every game. The Baltimore was just playing catch up every game. They're pressing, and ultimately that falls on the starting pitching, right? Like that falls on the starters. Grayson's going to be fine, you'd think, right? But you know, Bradish, Kremer, you can do better.
I mean,
You have to
Bradish
be
has
able to
been
do
really
better.
good.
He has been,
He's
but
been really, really good.
he did give up a bunch of runs, and that's just
Man, but it's also his
you
first
don't want
time
him
in.
as your game one starter.
It's also his first time in the
Yeah.
playoffs. I mean, he pitched at like a really high level this year.
Hmm.
Um, I mean,
Leclerc is out there now. It's
yeah,
back in there. He only threw 7 pitches, so
yeah, but and there gets
Pace
a
pops
pop
it
up.
up.
Josh Jung with
One
the
down.
catch. Oh, two more to go in the Orioles season.
It's tough. And how about this Rangers team, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I forgot Bruce Bochy was managing until I was watching the wild card game against the Rays. I think we talked about him all year.
I
The
talked about
rain
him in the
he's
preview.
yeah, the Rangers have done a really good job.
Hmm.
I think they played in one of the tougher divisions with that AL West. That's going to suppress your record. You got 3 teams with almost 90 wins. Cedric Mullins bounces out to Simeon, 2 down.
Yeah. No, Bochy's done a fantastic job this year.
Hmm.
With this team, he was a lot to what this team, what I thought Bob Melvin would be to the Padres.
Right,
Um, and I think
stabling force.
stabling force and just kind of a he. I feel like Bochy's he's a adaptable to the analytics, but also the feel of the game.
Right,
Like he knows what your analytics are, but he also uses the feel of the game to his advantage as well. As the clerk just blows 97 by Westberg with to get
season's
strike
down to
one.
Westberg.
Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
so this Texas team is going to be fun uh,
Yeah,
to watch here in the ALCS with this offense. See what they are. Hopefully, I mean, maybe Texas gets to the World Series and can avenge themselves
yeah.
from what was that 2011,
10 and 11.
10 and
20,
11.
10 and 2011.
Was
They
it
went back to back to the World Series.
was 11 when they were down by one
Strike
strike?
3.
Yep, Ash or
Rain,
Rangers
Rangers
strikeout
move on.
Westberg and move on.
I was thinking that I think I was thinking, is this going to be kind of a muted celebration? It's muted. These guys, this is not their goal.
It's a little bit.
They're doing a little jump around. The Corey Seager like ran off like angry. Like I think that Josh Jung is excited, right? That's a young kid, but this is not they're not dogpiling. This is very muted
Well, and just
overall.
and think this team right now, this Rangers team, they didn't have Max Scherzer for this one. They're gonna have him back for
Yep.
that. they don't have Jacob DeGrom.
Right.
I
Who
mean,
the 5-year deal.
yeah, 5 years,
He'll be
like
back.
he's going to be there. These young guys are just going to keep getting better with Josh Jung, who's in his rookie year. Like this is a team that's set up for success for a long time.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Big big learning opportunity for like the young guys of Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez, Gunnar
yeah,
Henderson, those guys getting a playoff run under their belts. You know, it's tough to run into this Rangers team. This Rangers team looks like it's like a team on a mission. I mean, the
which
the Astros go to the Astros go to the ALCS every year, but they don't make the World Series every year, and that
if
does feel like it might be a stopping point for them.
if you remember back to the wild card preview, I said that this Rangers team is going to use the motivation that they didn't win this
Yep.
division as a fueling fire for these playoffs, and that fact that Bruce Bochy's led this team, they could be really, really
Hmm.
scary. And I think
Yep.
that's all what you're seeing right now. This offense
They
is
haven't lost a
clicking.
game yet.
No, the offense is clicking. They're looking like the team that's pissed off that they lost the division, and Bruce Bochy is managing really well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really
Yeah.
had not had to manage them most of the way, but
This is a team on a mission,
yeah,
right? You can tell these guys. This isn't their goal. They
no,
they were expecting this. This is a you know excellent next
hmm
chapter. Let's go win the ALCS. Let's go to the World Series. This is a scary group.
yep,
I think that comes from like guys like Corey Seager, Marcus Simeon, leaders who've been in the playoffs a number of times, who've found the loss, right? They've lost in the playoffs a lot, right? Like they've lost a lot more than they've won. Simeon's won a World Series. Seager's only won the one,
hmm
right? But those guys have been in the playoffs a ton. Jacob DeGrom's been in the playoffs, hasn't won.
yeah,
Scherzer's been in the playoffs and has won, but he's lost a lot too. A lot of leadership, a lot of veteran presence from a lot of these guys. Even Eovaldi is a guy who's been and won the World Series. So
yeah, done a lot.
I this is a team that can kind of point to a lot of things. It's like, oh yeah, well they've got a lot of experience at this position, and this is a young kid, but obviously he's got preparation from his peers.
Yeah.
So
So, just looking ahead at what the landscape looks like here moving forward. Obviously, the Rangers move on. Uh, Astros and Twins will have Game 4 tomorrow. I think at 4 p.m. Pacific. So, what's that? 7 Eastern. Then you'll get Game 3. Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Braves, Phillies. Diamondbacks look to close out the Dodgers in Chase Field at home. So we got two elimination games tomorrow for the Dodgers and the Twins. Braves, Phillies. That's going to be a good one too. That one went all the way down to the last out. I mean, we didn't even talk about the play that ended that game two. Um,
there was a lot going on.
a lot there. Um, if the Astros close that out tomorrow, I think the ALCS starts on Sunday. So I don't know when we're going to have our next episode of the podcast. We'll have to figure that out here. But two big closeout games tomorrow with the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Astros, Twins, and then the Braves, Phillies in there. Um, this one, the Rangers just brought it to the Orioles here. Closed out Game 3 of the American League Division Series on this side, so they await to see who they're going to face on Sunday. But anything else you wanna wrap up on?
Nope,
Okay.
that's about it. It's been a good playoffs, I think. And the Rangers are fresh face, Diamondbacks kind of a fresh face, right? The Phillies are kind of returning, but even still, that's a team that feels like they're on a mission.
Yeah.
So Twins still have a chance, although today did not go their way. Um, they're gonna need to win two in a row.
Yep.
That's all they can do.
Yep. So, thanks Matt for showing up earlier. David, thanks for sticking along with me through this one, and thanks everyone for tuning in, giving a little bit to the chat. Nate, you suck. Adam, you suck even more.
They do.
Um, so, thank you guys for tuning in to the live stream of the ALDS Game 3, and we'll catch you back here whenever we have a podcast episode, which I don't know when that's going to be. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you then.